Stump coming down was super good. Like, it was
Yeah.
nice to like. I met him. I met him once before, but him coming down, we hung out for like, sorry, we probably should say fuck Stump, by the way. Start that at the very start of this shit, because why not?
Fuck Stomp.
But like, yeah, him coming down was like super. It was actually really nice. Like, it was a different perspective on things. Like, it was went out, had some like, we had Ryoiin's birthday, which was nice. Had some drinks, little funsies type beat, and then like the next morning we went out, had like really good breakfast, and then just like, just walked around a bunch, had good conversations, like. And it's interesting because, not to like call him out, but like, he's like 5 years older than me, so he's 30, and like his perspective on life is actually really good, and I think it was.
Wait,
really
are we talking about Stump or Ryoiin?
Nah, Stump. I mean, Ryoiin's 5 years younger than me, pretty much. So it's actually this interesting dichotomy. If you have like, Ryoiin's like 21, I'm like 24, turning 25, and then Stump's like 30. So you have this really nice this really nice dynamic of shit. And it was actually super interesting to get like Stump's perspective on a bunch of stuff. Like I told him a bunch of the shit that's like been going on with me and blah blah blah, and he like gave me a lot of good insight and perspective on things. And I think, like, I swear I really do appreciate people that aren't like, that just don't jump to like, oh, you should just get over it, or blah 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 blah. But it's like, nah, man, the guy actually gave me some good knowledge. So, we'll keep this in the video just for you, Stump. Something sweet, something nice,
I was gonna say most of my close friends, not even by choice, are actually older than me, like 3 to 5 years older than me.
Yeah.
So I feel like, for me personally, growing up, and I'm someone who, my birthday's in November, so like as I was growing up, everybody was always older than me in school, since my birthday was at the end of the year. That I always felt like I was a little bit more mature than people I work with, people I went to school with, just because of my friend groups and stuff.
Yeah.
And honestly, I appreciate it, and for a very weird reason, I get along a lot better with older people than I do with younger people or people my age. And I feel like that's why, like, a lot of people in a way gravitate towards me, like, in my job and stuff like that, because most of the people I work with are younger than me. So it may be in that sense that it happens to me, it also happens to them.
Yeah, I agree. But without further ado, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to episode 87 of the Good, Great, Perfect podcast, or should I say episode 1 of the Advice Corner, featuring myself and Flamevius.
Welcome to the therapy lounge.
Welcome to the therapy lounge. Everyone grab a seat, grab yourself a nice cup of tea, something warm, get yourself some snackies. Like, we don't know, we have no structure for today's episode, but at this current point in time, just to give you guys the rundown, Knight is still sick. He's still recovering, so best wishes to him. And simultaneously, Todd is still hopefully going to get over the Rona at some point in time in the next couple of days. So again, best wishes to him as well. So you have the dynamic duo, the OG Origairu combination of myself and Flame. What's going on, dude? How you been?
I've been all right. I've been going through my fair share of troubles that I guess we'll get a little into today for once.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, other than the stupid nonsense, I've been pretty good. Just working. I've been playing the Diablo 4 beta.
Oh yeah.
Yesterday and today. That's fun. And then Resident Evil 4 comes out this coming Friday, so I'm gonna be playing that for
reviews.
The next week
look
or so.
Insane for Resi 4
as
well.
Yep. So very, very, very short side note. The only like reasons, like most of the reviews are 10s. There are very few people that are giving it like 4 out of 5, 4.9 out of 5, like stupid stuff like that for very like minuscule things. Like one thing that I saw people were complaining about was the merchant, which is like a very iconic character from Resident Evil 4. He didn't deliver his lines as like, I guess, as the original did, but I'm like, it's the merchant. It's just like
that's a bit petty.
He had like 3 lines.
That's a bit petty. Like, surely, come on. Like, you're gonna really dock points for like 3 lines, man? Come on, dog.
But I also feel like that's a good thing, because if that's really like one of the only things that's being critiqued about a game, like then that means everything else must be amazing.
Yeah, if you're nitpicking, then yeah, totally.
Yeah, like some other things where like people are saying Leon didn't sound like as funny or sarcastic, but I'm just like, all right, whatever. I don't really mind that stuff. And people that never even played the original game wouldn't even realize that. So
No, not at all. Like I think, yeah, the nitpicks are purely coming from people that are like fans or those that have like, played the game in the past, blah blah blah. So I think
exactly.
that sounds positive. Then if it's that kind of nitpicking, then I think you're in there.
Yep. How have you been?
I've been alright, man. I've just been going through the motions. Work's been freaking hectic. But I started my new position next week, which would be interesting to see how that all kind of pans out. But just kind of living life at this point in time, and I don't know, like there's not really much going on actually. Like usually I'd have more juice, but I've kind of just been in my own little bubble, in my own little world at the moment, and just kind of just been existing, which probably isn't the best thing to just be existing, but at the same time, I'm probably just more so trying to find my own 2 feet first before I can really start jumping and getting out there per se. But I've been getting into sport, like more sport. We went and played squash yesterday. We've been playing a ton of badminton, like just trying to get into more stuff, be more active and things as well, which I think is always a positive aspect of things. And then just on the treasure cruise front, we have the world cruise at the moment. So I kind of competed pretty heavily in Pie Rumble. I did okay in that. And now we're in Treasure Map, which ends today, which is thank God. I've been playing a lot of Treasure Map, which is kind of a crazy thing for me to say, especially with Treasure Map sucking so much ass. But like, I guess like first of all, like I have all the units, which is always a easy like positive thing when playing Treasure Map. But at the same time, like I'm not playing games. I play Bounty Rush, which actually is really fun. I play Treasure Cruise and I play FIFA. I don't play single player games. I don't really have like a lot of time investment to do that kind of stuff. I just enjoy playing something that I can like sit and grind and go. So actually having something to do in Treasure Cruise has actually been kind of relieving in a sense. You can just mindlessly play while you're while you're like in a voice call or watching YouTube or just like eating food or whatever. So I don't know. So I guess like don't expect me next fucking TM to be doing nothing. I don't want to have the units at the time, so I'm not playing it that one. But
right.
no, it's been good though. Like it's actually been interesting. But nonetheless, the game is still arse. Just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Don't forget that. The
Yeah. The game still is trash. Don't forget it. But no, it's been nice. But that's about it. That's how I've been really. But like I said, we have no idea what we want to do today. We kind of just thought like Flame and I love talking about like the ins and outs of like the psychology and just talking about like mental health and approaching life. And as we live in 2 different places in the world, obviously our perspectives on life are completely different. And I think you and I feel pretty comfortable discussing with each other, and especially not trying to drag in other people to this call as well. So we thought like with Todd and Knight not being here today, this might be the best opportunity to actually have one of these intimate discussions about just everything in general, and be like, we don't know where this train will go or how long it'll be, or like, what even the timestamps will look like, but or how many, how well it will do. I guess that's a great place to start. When you did YouTube, when you were making content, how much did views and subs and that kind of stuff affect you, like your mentality or your like mental wise?
Okay, so when my mentality for starting YouTube, I think I've said this before in my own videos. I think I've said this on the podcast before. And when I started doing YouTube videos, like I would, play OPTC and whatever other gacha games I was playing. And I would literally watch like some YouTubers do it, like some YouTubers that were like popular at the time. And not even to like sound messed up, but like I would say in my head, like damn, like, these people can do this. I can definitely do this because like
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a very outspoken, like talkative person.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm very funny. So I was like, honestly, I feel like I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started making my videos, I knew at first, I wasn't gonna get a lot of views and whatnot. But what I always like tried to keep was like consistency, because I knew that's kind of how the algorithm works. The more you continue to push content, at some point, you're gonna have that one random pop-up video. even
Yeah.
if the video is not good, you're just gonna have that random pop-up
Yeah.
video, and that's what happens. But in a way, it motivated me because when I first started, I was just trying to get my name out there.
Yeah.
Like, I would always upload right when, stuff came out. But obviously, since my channel wasn't big at the time, nobody would watch it. I
Mm-hmm.
remember my first anniversary, it was the Big Mom Brook one. I
Yep.
think that was fourth Annie.
Fourth
I
Annie. Yeah.
remember I was super excited. I'm like, I'm gonna post my Sugo Fest polls like as soon as this comes out, and that video did horrible, got like 100
Yeah.
views. Um, but in a way, it did motivate me at some point. But once I hit that one pop off week, and then my channel became, very consistent, I
Mm-hmm.
became one of like the bigger global YouTubers.
Yeah. One of the
It did
pillars.
it didn't motivate me as much anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
started to just kind of make content that I enjoyed. Like I
Yeah.
would make random videos of random teams that nobody's gonna use because I'm like, I just want to, I just
I
want to
just want
make
to do it.
videos at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I knew people were gonna watch it and whatever. But yeah, in the beginning, I feel like that's something that will always motivate people. Then there's people, that obviously will do it for money.
Yeah.
I didn't really do it for money because when I was getting money from YouTube, I wasn't getting that much, and whatever I got, I just put right back into the game. So
Yeah.
it basically was like I wasn't getting anything
Yeah.
anyway. But yeah,
Because like I don't know. I think for me, something that I've been trying to I've been combating a lot recently is like if being breaking the fourth wall. GGP is actually doing really shit right now. Like
hmm
in comparison to this time last year, it's taken a complete like maybe 50% nosedive downwards, and it's a bit of like a heartbreaking thing when you really think about it, right? Like I guess in my
yeah,
perspective, because I take things a lot more personally than I probably should, but looking at like the views, and obviously like I know that views aren't indicative of everything, and sub count isn't indicative of everything as well, but like the last 3 or 4 videos haven't even broken 1,000 views, which again I know I should be appreciative of what we're getting, but at the same time, like when you put a lot of effort into something, and I understand people would probably think, a lot of people might think, oh, GGP is real, a podcast is easy, you just sit down and talk, right? But I think that one thing that's really kind of like broken me is like looking at the most recent uploads and seeing that the view count like isn't there, and then simultaneously like noticing that like the sub count just keeps declining. There's no like bump back upwards. It just keeps declining. And I understand, like you said, the algorithm favors consistency and regular uploads, and obviously with GGP we don't do that. And like first and foremost, GGP is always a hobby for all of us. Like I've always said, like if I can afford I will work on Good, Great, Perfect full time if I can afford to pay everyone on the show a proper money. That would be my personal
right,
mentality. And obviously, like the counter to that is like, oh, well then make more videos and release more this and do more that. But at the same time, I have a full time job. Flame has a full time job. Knight's working a lot of hours. Todd has his own YouTube channel. Like it's hard to find our own time. Like for example, Flame's filming on a Saturday evening. I'm filming on a Sunday morning. Like there's a lot of situations where we could easily have just said, you know what, stuff this. I want to go out with my friends, or I want to go do this and that. And I guess these are all excuses, but at the same time, I think they're fair excuses in a sense too. So
right.
naturally, I think that I'm trying to get over this whole like mantra of continuously checking analytics and seeing how videos are doing. But it is a bit heartbreaking in a sense that, and again, I probably should preface this by saying like, this isn't a slight to any of the people that are watching and any of the people that have continuously supported. We are still very appreciative of that and forever will be. But it's, I guess for me, as someone who loves data and analytics and numbers, it's very interesting to see like the comparison between this time last year and this year, and like how much of a difference there is in terms of consistent viewers and returning people, and even like the small things like revenue and all that kind of stuff.
Well, something that I wanted to say, I think, is of like worth the noting, is that a lot of people that probably watch the podcast like over the years, a lot of the people and players in general, like some of them stopped playing. Like there's been a
Correct.
lot of viewers that you would like even see in the questions, like Cody, for example. I believe he stopped playing Treasure
Yeah,
Cruise.
that's right.
That always say like, oh, I always love watching the podcast, but as of recently, I stopped playing. And
Yeah,
I feel
right.
like that probably is a part of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
People it's primarily a One Piece Treasure Cruise podcast. You know, obviously, if they're not playing the game, you know, they're not going to watch the videos. They're going to unsubscribe and whatnot because, you know, they probably don't want to see it and whatnot. So I feel like that could probably be a potential reason. I feel like even though the game is still doing well, like sales wise and stuff, I do feel like there's probably a lot less people that play now that like, you know, compared to back then. I feel like back then, like a couple of years ago, the community was a lot more active. So that could play a role in it. Algorithm, that's just like a whole other thing. You know, you can't really break into that. That's kind of like talking about like RNG. It is what
that's
it
right.
is at the end of the day. But I feel like, you know, as long as everybody's having a good time, you know,
That's right.
views and stuff is nice, of course, you know, activity, comments, all of that is great, engagement. But, you know, at the end of the day, when you guys started the podcast, you guys started it because you just guys wanted to all sit around and talk
Correct.
about the game. You
Yeah.
know, it wasn't created in the sense of, oh yeah, let's start this so we can make extra money and blah blah blah. So if that's still the consensus of the podcast, I feel like you shouldn't feel bad about that.
No. I think, I think like that still is my consensus. I think like I'm still enjoying it, and to be fair with you, like to be like again break fourth wall. For the most part, I'm only playing Treasure Cruise to do the podcast right now. If I'm gonna be like, genuinely, because I don't like the game. It consumes too much of my time. I spend too much, and I think that whilst, you know, it would leave a bit of a void if I was to quit, and like I'll lose my quote unquote micro celebrity notoriety. Like I think there's a I could probably write a really good pros and cons list of still playing, and
Yeah.
I think that I don't want to drop the game because I think I've mentioned this at the start of last year, the start of this year, the end of last year. GGP will not end until we hit 100 episodes, in my opinion, at least.
Right, that's like the bare minimum.
Exactly. Like, unless there's unforeseen circumstances or there's a falling out between me and Knight because we're going to fight at some point because I hate the guy.
Me too.
Well, there you go. Fuck Knight. He's off the pod. But, like, if that happens, then that's, like, unforeseen circumstances. But I think the bare minimum will be 100 eps. And then I think we as a group will have a reevaluation of what we want to do. Maybe we slow it down to once a month. Maybe we quit entirely. Maybe we just keep going at the same cadence. Maybe we start picking it up. Maybe we find something else we want to talk about or do. And then we kind of go from there. Because
right.
I think that whilst it's easy to do a podcast, I think it's also very hard to speak for such consistent periods of time. And I think, you know, and I guess I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but I think that's the one biggest problem with content creators in the Treasure Cruise scene. They lack a lot of ability to communicate for long periods of time without constant engagement. And it's very common to see people stream, and don't get it twisted. I'm no more successful than the next guy, right? But I think one of the biggest things that I find is that obviously for people like Toadski and Stump, you have these guys on their stream, their chats are flowing, so it allows them to communicate and like create conversation. But the hardest part of streaming is being, at least in my opinion, is being able to stream to no one and still putting on the most entertaining show you possibly can. And if you're able to do that, I feel like people will naturally gravitate towards you rather than having a jabroni sit there in front of a camera and not say anything for 5 to 10 minutes because there's no chat. That's just my perspective on things, but I think that's why it's hard to do a podcast because, and don't get we've had a lot of friction between GGP in the past. I'm not going to get into the semantics of it because this isn't the place and time to do so, but I've always felt it's my job to be a mediator of the conversation. So I want things to flow. I want there to not be any dead air. I want to pose questions to the guys in order to generate the next step in the conversation, as opposed to trying to get people to do it themselves. And that's what I kind of see as the podcast. I think it's very easy to just like set up a microphone and hop on a call with your friends and chat about, the current political climate or something like that, right? But
right.
there needs to be an element of engagement and entertainment. And I think like I would say, like, if anyone was to start a OPTC podcast, I would be completely honest. Nothing competes with the quality that we can provide. In just the pure sense of that, we have such a great chemistry between each other now that it would be a shame to just drop the pod at this point in time. Right. So I think that, like, all in all, to kind of like come back around on itself, like, whilst I hate Treasure Cruise, I don't like it at all. I don't like the management. I don't like the producers. I don't like the developers. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, I keep playing it because I want GGP to continue to go forward. Because if I quit, it's fucking in the bin at that point, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's my perspective on that regard there.
I think one really interesting thing about One Piece Treasure Cruise is, as much as I liked playing the game at one point, and as much as I always hated it, I feel like One Piece Treasure Cruise is like a very interesting game just to talk about. Even though there's really not that much going on.
No.
Like you can call it like the game causes a lot of conversation. Yep. And that's one reason I always like doing the podcast, even though I don't play the game anymore, because I just always liked talking about the game. Like one of my best friends from my original One Piece Treasure Cruise group that we all used to play, to this day I still tell him about the game and we still talk about it, even though he has no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, it's just an interesting game to talk about. And I feel like, even like if, for example, you quit the game, if we still kept doing the podcast and Todd was the only person playing the game, I feel like we could still probably get by and just talk about the game, just because that's just like the nature of it.
Totally. Like, the game is so easy to discuss, right? It's actually incredibly simple to break down. It's just, I think, like, obviously you need like the first-hand experience to kind of have a more like nuanced perspective of things. But at the same time, Treasure Cruise is like an incredibly simple game to discuss. And I think the best thing we did this year, or like not this year, but we did when Elden Ring came out, which was like last year. Was switching the pod to 50-50, like half whatever, half Treasure Cruise, because then at least we get a full month's worth of content to discuss, and we can make a really good 2-hour episode that's like jam-packed, as opposed to trying to do 2-hour episodes where we have to really grasp at straws to get by.
You're like, okay, these two characters came out, Kisa up, and that's
it. See you later. Have a good app, guys. But at least, like, But then again, like, I think the formula of GGP is kind of cringe, which is kind of backwards to say, because, and I guess it's not our fault, because there's nothing to discuss at times. It's the same format of just talk about all the new legends, talk about the new content, and then that's about it, right? And
exactly,
the majority of the length of the episodes is us discussing the legends. And even us discussing the legends, the majority of that is me reading out what the legends like actually do. But that's become a staple for the show. We have to, like, you want to read it out so everyone that's listening still has the idea of like the points we're kind of talking about per se. So like, I think that the current formula of the OPTC side of things is getting pretty stale. And I guess I don't really know what you would kind of do to make it entertaining. Because I guess it's kind of in a sense, it is out of our hands.
And that, honestly, that sucks. And that's because how the game is ran right now. Yeah. Because, for example, if you pose that same exact statement and question, like, 3 or 4 years ago, I would disagree with you, because nowadays everybody just runs the same exact thing. Everybody just plays the same exact piece of content. It's all point farming, booster events. There's no originality to any events.
Yeah.
Back then, we could have sat here, discuss different types of approaches to content, different types of teams that we were running. Oh, I didn't pull for X and so characters because you didn't really. I'm not gonna say you didn't need them, but it wasn't as like
No,
heavily
you didn't need
focused
them.
as it is now. Like today, like if you don't pull the new character, it's just like you're gonna suffer,
It's gonna be a shit
or you're not
month.
gonna beat the mission.
It's gonna be a
So
long month if you don't pull the character, right? And I think,
right.
yeah, it's
So
insane.
So like even back then, like when it was still kind of like the same cycle, you'd have, your Sugo Fest, and then you would have an arena, a raid, treasure map, he's in maybe like a new forest or whatever, a garb challenge rotation, a garb challenge reset. There were still different approaches to all these things. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, we're all gonna run this Roger team. Everybody's using it. If you're not using it, like, it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Now what was I gonna say? That's just how the game is now. So
Yeah,
conversations is gonna go with how the game is being
yeah,
ran.
totally.
So if there's no originality to the game, there can't really be too much originality with the podcast because we have to just go over the same exact things every week in the same exact order.
Exactly, and there's not like how many times can you really do a state of the game conversation, right?
Exactly.
When the
Beg,
conversation is
li-
the
be-
exact same.
beg, listen. The state of the game is the same exact state of the game since 2021.
Yeah, pretty much. I always find it really interesting because there always comes a point in the year where everyone starts to upload their state of the game conversation because somebody does it, or maybe we talk about it, or something. Todd makes a video, and then Stump makes a video. Sorry, Todd makes a video, and then everyone kind of follows suit. Then Stump makes a different perspective video, and then everyone kind of follows suit. And then I wait for everyone to release their shit, and then I'm like, well, I'm the voice of reason in this community, so here's the true video of the state of the game. Like,
I would like to say I'm happy. I've never made that type of
no,
video.
it's because the thing is, I think that those kinds of videos are important, but at the same time, there's no value in those videos if no one is pushing that to action.
Not
That's
even that. There's no value to those videos because they're counterintuitive because all of those people
still
pushing those
playing.
narratives and pushing
Yeah,
those agendas, not even still playing, but they're
still,
still spending
yeah,
thousands
still
of dollars
spending.
on the
Yeah,
game. So it's like you could sit here and be like, yeah, this game sucks. The Sugo Fest structure is horrible. The rainbow gems are overpriced, blah blah blah. But you're still gonna be that same exact person
yeah,
going 30 multis deep on each part of the Sugo Fest, getting all the boosters, all
yeah,
this, that, and
yeah.
that, posting all these videos. So there's no point of even saying the stuff if you're gonna contribute to the problem.
I have found it funny. So recently, there's been like a bit of a push from people who are not spending any, like not pulling on anything until the JP anniversary, and people are just like quote unquote showing off about it. Like, oh, I haven't pulled, and I'm like, that's a normal thing. Like, what are you showing off about, or what are you like exclaiming to people, or like people like screenshotting their gem counts and being like, look, I haven't pulled, guys. And I'm sat there, I'm like, yeah, you don't have to pull on everything. Like, maybe
Like,
I'm
wow,
taking.
buddy, you didn't
You
spend
did.
$1,000
You
this
didn't
month.
spend. Yeah,
Okay.
congratulations, well done, boss. Like, show me. Here's a cookie. Like I've always found it kind of interesting because people genuinely sit there and they're just like, oh, I haven't pulled. I'm not pulling
Like,
until
okay,
Annie,
good.
and I'm like, you don't need to tell me a million times. You don't need to tweet about it every fucking week. Like, I'm not pulling, so it's gonna be. For me to get 15 mil is gonna take forever, or for me to this point farming event taking ages. It's like, my brother in Christ, like, that's a good. You not pulling is a good thing. It sends a message. The more people that do that, I'm no better. I'm gonna obviously say, because people are gonna call me out for it. I'm no better. I sent 30 multis on Ace. I sent fucking 10 multis on Sabo. I'm not any better. I'm not saying I'm any better. I always preface everything I say with saying that I'm not any better. But
Yeah.
I don't need to know about you saving. I don't need you to shove it down everyone's throat. Like, you're not any better than anyone else. Like, a lot of people just don't spend. A lot of people just save. Like it's a normal thing.
Yeah, but I was gonna say that also the other problem with that is even the people that are like starting to do that now, the amount of money that they contributed to the game is like
Correct. Exactly right.
literally nothing. The people, for that to actually make a difference is for, the insane whales that, do it every day and the people that actually have a voice in the community. Like
Yeah.
if those people started doing that, if those people made those statements, if those people, stood up in a way, I feel like that would be the only way for that to have an impact. If you have 1,000 people that spend less than $1,000 a year on the game stop spending money, they're not even going to notice that.
No, correct. I totally agree.
It needs to be the people that have a community, that have a voice. You have the people that spend $100,000 on the game. Those are the people that need to do that. But they will never do that, obviously.
It's the community's fault, right? Because everyone is so like it's. I remember during my university, I actually wrote a paper on like the psychology of gacha games, and I kind of a big point of that paper was discussing like the herd mentality and like the community's kind of aspect of things, and it's the fault of the community to a big proportion because people show off. People like I remember way back during like when new content used to drop, people used to race to see who could farm it the fastest, and then simultaneously sit there and complain like, "Hey, there's nothing to farm, there's nothing to do," or
exactly, yeah. There's nothing to farm because you blitzed 40 hours of content in like 2 hours.
exactly. And then people would compare, like, I have this unit and you don't, or I pulled this guy and you didn't, or my box is better, or like whatever it is. And I think there's also this really negative connotation surrounding, what is it? Like, there's a really heavy negative connotation surrounding the OPTC community, because from my perspective, no one is ever happy for anyone.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I think that is the most disgusting thing to me. Like when I go and hop into a Todd stream and Todd's getting shafted, yeah, okay, it's funny. You guys want to laugh, that's great. But this is a real man spending real dollars on a product and not getting a good outcome. And you're sat there and you're like, this is funny. Fuck that guy. If you really like, where's the community sense of we want everyone to eat good or we want everyone to win? Naturally, law of large numbers says not everyone can do good or not everyone can do well. But at the same time, I think there needs to be a complete, and maybe people are going to call me cringe. I don't fucking care. But there needs to be a complete mentality switch between showing off and comparing. And the biggest one is like, don't be an asshole to people that get shafted, or don't be rude, or don't like be happy if someone gets like shafted or whatever it is. Like at the end of the day, we want everyone to do well. And that's at least the mentality we should have. Again, I might be a culprit of this in the past and still now. That's fair enough. But you know what? I want to stop prefacing everything because fuck that. Every single time I say something, I have to preface it. But
this is the unhinged podcast.
This is the unhinged episode. But I think that there has to be a complete mentality switch. Like, stop roasting people. Stop complaining. Stop being upset that somebody got it in less multis than you did. Just be happy for everyone.
I would say that there's two mindsets in this situation. You have the mindset of, oh, I didn't pull this character, so that means that you can't have this character. So I'm going to be happy if you also get shafted. And then you'll have the other mindset of, I have this character, but now that means that you can't have this character because I want to be the only person that has this character. And I feel like that even in my stance, I would think like that sometimes too. I'd pull a character and I'd be like, oh man, I hope nobody else gets this character now, so I can be the only person that makes videos.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's just how people are. That's just like, unfortunately, that's human nature. You will never have just a general population of people saying, I hope everybody gets this character in one multi. I hope everybody's happy. I hope nobody has to spend money, because everybody's envious of everyone else.
Correct.
Everybody's jealous of everybody else. Yeah. Everybody wants to be the best. Everybody wants to just be better than everybody else. And it's honestly nasty. It's disgusting. I've probably done this a million times.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, me too.
Times.
Yeah, 100%.
So
we're all part of the problem. That's just the truth of it, right? We're all part of the problem. But it takes a few people that have to stand up and start like switching that mentality. And I think it's not like the big dogs. It's not like, oh, Todd never does this. I think Todd's actually one of the most sincere people. Not to blow smoke of his ass because that guy's cringe anyway. I'm joking. But like, no, but not yet. But like, I think Todd has always had a really great mentality about being appreciative of people and always being like, oh, if someone says something, he's like, oh, you know, somebody says, oh, fuck you. He's like, yeah, hope you get better pulls than me or something like that. Or I hope no one gets shafted like me or whatever, you know? So it's always like a good mentality. So I don't think it's the big dons that are at fault. I guess it's like the grassroots communities, those like discords full of Treasure Cruise players where you have people that are more notorious than others in these communities. They're the ones that have to take a stance and demonstrate a better mentality of things. And they're the ones in these communities that if they see someone calling something, like if they see like, oh, Flame posted he got shafted in 15, he had to do 15 multis and got nothing, and I'm bagging out Flame. Well, I think somebody should step in there and say, hey, don't do that. Like, don't be an asshole. Like, you know, and then really set a precedent for not being rude and not being obnoxious or anything in that regard.
And to kind of piggyback off of this is kind of like a side note, but I don't know if it's still like this, but back in the day, at least like when I used to play the game, if you would go into the Reddit Discord for One Piece Treasure Cruise and go to like the questions segment, like where people have like genuine questions, like you'd have people like just like ragging on them, like what are you, like stupid, like blah blah blah, like, and these are like people that never played the game before, like they don't know, like, and you have people that are generally sitting there like trying to help them, but then you just have people that are just being like super mean and super obnoxious about it. Like, just don't answer the question then. Like, obviously you know the answer, you play the game
great.
50 hours a day.
Exactly.
Like, cool.
Like, exactly. I think it's gotten better, but I don't think it's to the point where that doesn't happen. Like, I think that's actually still a big problem, is that people, and maybe it's just people's natural like cadence or precedent, but sometimes I think people are very naturally condescending in their regards, because they just assume that like, oh, well, if I know this, therefore everyone should know it type beat. And that's just not true at all. Treasure Cruise in itself is an impossibly difficult game to get into. I don't think I could go to my friend right now, people that like play video games and stuff. I reckon if I gave them a fresh Treasure Cruise account and said, here, play the game, but don't look up anything, you're not getting through. Like, no. It's just not...
Definitely not.
It's not happening, right? I think that in itself is already a super challenging aspect of things. And then on top of that, you have at times a community that doesn't want to support or doesn't want to help people or doesn't want to like seem vulnerable, I guess might be the right word. They just want to be, like you said, they want to be the top dog. They want to be
they have like a superiority complex.
Exactly. Like, I ranked first, therefore I'm the best. Or like, don't talk to me, I have all the legends, or that kind of regard. It's like, no, like, Treasure Cruise in itself is still a very small community, even though the game's been out for what in May will be 9 years. Treasure Cruise will have been out, right? Treasure Cruise is still small. We are not recognized as a gacha game, mind you. I think people forget. Like, when you take gacha games, people immediately go to Dokkan and Fate and Genshin, in my opinion.
Yep.
And then there's obviously more in the pipeline below that level. And then way below that, you have Treasure Cruise get popped in there at some point. Even though Treasure Cruise's revenue is extremely high, there's so many other gachas that completely decimated in every regard.
I think Bounty Rush actually makes more money than Treasure Cruise.
It does, and you know what? Bounty Rush is fucking better. I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. Like, that's what I wanted to say to you about taking a stand, right? So there's this guy. He's a big Bounty Rush YouTuber. His name's Soul.
Okay.
And he recently, so right now is the 100th season of like the League Battle, which is basically the 4v4 capture the flag League Battle. And there's the game has a bunch of hackers involved now that are playing because like the 100th one is this big celebration one, and there's lots of good rewards and stuff, but there are people that are just purely hacking the game and ruining it. So he took a stand. He's been contacting every single person he possibly can. There's no like, I don't think he has a contact in Bandai, I think, develop it or whatever it is, but I think the biggest thing that he's doing, he said he is no longer playing. his main account, which is the account he spends money on, he's only going to play his free-to-play account. And his account, he said that he spent like upwards of $15,000 on that account alone. And whilst that might seem like a weird stance to take, I think that kind of goes back to what you were talking about of like when there are problems or when there's an issue, the big dons need to be the ones that take the stand, right? And him being probably the biggest, I don't know actually about Bounty Rush, but the biggest one that I know of. He's like a cooler version of Knight, actually. So hold that, bud. Him taking that kind of a stand, I think, is incredible. And hopefully, like, that kind of promotes others to, like, at least, maybe not, like, completely switch the account they use, but just not spend anything. And then it kind of forces the devs to come up with a solution to these hackers and all these because, bro, these hackers, what they do is they use this Big Mum unit, and they stay on like at where they spawn, and then they just shock every player across the whole map so no one can actually move.
Oh god.
Like,
that sounds horrible.
That's it. And then basically what your team can then do, you go capture all 5 flags, and when you capture the 5 flags, a countdown timer starts because you have everything, and then you just win because the enemy team can't move. And then you just die from the shock damage. And then when you respawn, you just get shocked again. And then you die. And then people are also using auto clickers and auto like macros and stuff to go and play the challenge battle, which is another mode where you get a lot of rewards. So they're taking this big, massive stand. And I think that genuinely is a really incredible thing. Will it have an effect? I doubt it, because Bandai is genuinely a really shitty company. So, I don't know. But nonetheless, I think it actually is a pretty powerful kind of message. And he gets views. So, like, if even half the people, even a quarter of the people are like, you know what, I'm going to do the same. That's maybe like 10 to 15,000 players that are like, we're not spending anymore. That's a big, big group of people. And then obviously, that can spread.
Yeah. I personally, I don't really know much about Bounty Rush. One of my friends plays it. He told me that he likes the game, but that game is super like you need a lot of dupes. Like he said, you need like 15 dupes of a character or something like that.
It's very sweaty, but the best part about the game is they have a lot of systems in place to allow you to get the dupes without having to pull for them, which is like a really good thing. Obviously, it's slow, so they have this like really cool like running system where basically like you just put a character on like an infinite treadmill, and then supposedly it's like you can get a character to 6-star, which isn't all. You still need more dupes to like hyper boost and stuff, but getting them to 6-star, it takes like 197 days of getting them from 4-star to 6-star for free, which is not bad. I mean, it is, but it's also not the best, but not the worst. Plus, they have like these generic 4-star fragments that you can exchange for fragments. If you have the unit, you can exchange them for fragments of the unit, and then you can use those to feed them as well. I think every month you get like between 50 and 100. So to like level them up, you need like 400 from 4 to 5, and maybe 600 from 5 to 6. So like it still takes a long time, but at least like you can boost, like you can buff the process. Plus they're very generous. Like during their anniversary, man, they gave out maybe like 400-500 gems during the anniversary. Anniversary just finished recently. 500 gems during anniversary. Or like it was like 400, let's be like sincere here. But like Jesus Christ, like Treasure Cruise for Global, guess how many gems Treasure Cruise gave out for Global Annie?
20.
25, you bozo. Give us the extra 5, man. But you know, but like that's not even a multi. Like that's not even a like you can't even do a disc. There's not even discounts for you to do. Like that is so. Like, I get that global Annie, worldwide Annie, isn't the main celebration, but that's a big spit in the face when you really think about it, right? Because you still label this as an anniversary. You release 3 units that are anniversary exclusive, so you're not going to see them for another 3 months after they leave, and then 3 months potentially again. Like, it's uncanny that both of these games are, at least as far as I'm aware, produced by Bandai. How is Bounty Rush able to give out 300-400 gems during anniversary, But even during JP anniversary, you get like what 100 maybe. 100's two fucking multis. That's jack shit in reality, right? Give us out 400. Give us a fucking crazy. Let people have fun with the game. Like, you don't need to be stingy. You make enough money, like, as it is. Like, I think that, and that's a whole nother conversation. I don't know if we want to get into, but it's that part upsets me the most, and I think that is what creates toxicity in the community. And then naturally, when toxicity is created, that toxicity then disperses amongst people, and that's where you get arguments and ill-mannered comments and negative conversations, and people start debating and having like all these blah 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 blah. Like, that's the problems. So
yep, I feel like unfortunately that's Gacha gaming as a whole.
Exactly though, right? And I think that like there are games that seem to do it quite well. Like, I don't know if like what are you still playing? Are you even playing anything at the moment?
I've stopped playing Gacha games since I think October or November.
Interesting.
I've been a good boy. I could still play them. I'm still gonna try out 2. I'm still waiting for the Honkai Star Rail. I think that's supposed to come out next month. And like, unfortunately, they just announced a Persona Gacha game.
Oh well, bro, you're in. That's content, baby. Surely.
I don't care if it's content or not. I'm playing it.
That's you. That's so you. I might even jump in on that. That might be fun as hell.
Yeah. So but honestly, it's been really nice since I stopped playing them. Honestly, a lot of people. This is probably just me. I was gonna say, I felt like I was saving more money, but the money that I was actually spending on the games, I started spending on other stuff.
I think
it's just you'll always spend money. That's what money's made for, to be spent.
Correct.
So
no, that's right, and I think that's a good conversation to have. Like, I remember people would. I mean, I don't know how much I've spent. Maybe in the 5 figures is what I would guess as well.
I definitely
have. But like, I think the crazy part about it is that people usually like bag me out. A lot of my friends or a lot of girls that I've talked to or like whatever it is, they'll be like, why? I'm like, think about it. If you're going out and buying alcohol, you're spending, let's say $80 on alcohol, for example, which is a pretty common thing in Australia, let's say. Like buying two cases of beers, maybe $80, $90, sometimes 100. 2 cases, right? You're having a party, you're buying a lot of drinks. That's the same thing as me buying like a gem pack and having my own fun in Treasure Cruise as well. So I think that what people kind of forget is that these like hobbies or interests or things that you want to collect or like. So I agree with you. Like, money just goes. No matter if you're going to say, I'm not going to play gacha games because I don't want to spend money anymore. You're gonna find a new outlet to spend that money. It's just what will occur.
And to kind of go off of that, because I kind of wanted to respond to that. When you have these types of conversations with people that don't play gacha games, that don't play One Piece Treasure Cruise in general, you have to understand that you're talking to people that aren't, I guess, gacha addicts or aren't gambling addicts.
Correct.
So their perspective is completely different than what we would justify as like, okay, even though I'm spending $100 pack on literally nothing, this is still good because so and so. But to someone else, that sounds like insane. What was I? What was the second part to what you said? You said something right after you were talking about how, you were explaining these to people and they'd be like, "Why?"
I guess like then like they will go out and spend the same money on other things.
Oh, right. And but then you have like in comparison like other things like alcohol, partying, whatever. You can at least make the argument that you're technically at least they're doing something,
getting something out of it. Yeah, that's fair.
They're getting something out of it. Like, for example, me, with all the money I've spent on the game, it's gone. Like, I gained nothing from it.
Yeah.
And you can also make an argument. There's someone in Knight's Discord, I'm not going to name him, but he was a super big whale on the game. He went like 100 and plus multis on the super big anniversary banners and all that stuff. And he said he's done. He's selling his account. For how much money he spent on the game, he's selling his account for less than $1,000.
Yeah,
that says a lot.
Yeah, totally.
So, yes, you can compare it to X and X other hobbies, but in those cases, at least they're somewhat getting something out of it. In this, you're literally just throwing it into your phone and it's gone.
I think then, like, the counter to that, I suppose, would be that I guess in the same time, I'm also getting something out of it, whether it's like, even if it's not tangible, it's still like, I'm getting like, a feeling of happiness or a feeling of like enjoyment. I think is the biggest thing for me. Like, I'm comfortable. I guess like my mentality is that I'm comfortable spending in the game so long as I'm enjoying what I'm spending on. I'm not going to sit there and spend on a banner if I'm not having fun on that banner or on that aspect of the game. But like, for example, doing 30 multis on Ace, I was with the boys. I'm just hanging out. I'm having fun. We're having a great time. I fucking sent it because I don't give two shits, you know? But that, yeah.
I was gonna say I also had that same exact perspective when I was playing the game, and then just at some point, like I just realized, like for me at least, like it's always the same thing, and now it's at like a more rapid pace. Like back then, at least, it's like okay, the banner comes out, every 3 weeks. I didn't have to pull every 4 days
Yeah,
for new
that's
characters. So I was like, at least I was like, okay, whatever, I can spend so and so here and there. But then I don't know. I just some point I just got tired of. It's like it's like my paycheck just went. I got my paycheck, my paycheck.
Yeah, it's just
It was just
Gonskis,
like
right?
yeah, and I had nothing to show for it really. Like yeah, I
Yeah.
was happy. I was like okay, I'm happy playing the game. I'm doing something I enjoy. I'm putting in what I'm getting back, but I don't know. I just felt like I could be using my money for better things.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. I think for me, like, I don't have any money because I fucking bought a house, right? So, like, all my money already goes to that. So, whatever little joy I can get from what I have is, I guess, like, valuable to me. And right now, like, I don't go and buy clothes. I can't afford to, go out all the time. I ain't got a girlfriend to, enjoy fucking life
Waste
with.
money on.
Exactly, right? Gee, bro, don't even get me started, man.
Oh, that's the next topic. Don't worry.
That's the next conversation. Like, I haven't got expenses. I still live at home. Like, everything's done for me. I'm very blessed. Don't get me twisted. Like, I'm very blessed that I have my parents are super duper supportive of me just doing my best and working hard and making money and like building up a foundation for myself before God forbid they pass away, like touch wood. That's kind of their mentality. Is just they want me to be the best I possibly can be. And then
Yeah.
nothing else matters.
I was gonna say like one thing my mom like always would say to me is like I also live with my mom. My mom's very supportive of me, letting me also build up. But she always says, she just wants to. Her goal is just to make sure that I'm okay when she's not there. Whether
Correct.
it's I move out on my own, whether at some point whenever she passes, that I'll be able to handle myself, handle my situation. That I'm not going to be just lost or thrown on the street or whatever. And so I can relate with that.
No, totally. Like, yeah, my parents have always had the mentality of like, we just want you to be better than we were, and that's it. Like, so they'll do everything within their power to ensure that that's the case. And again, I think we're very lucky to have such supportive parents. I think a lot of people may not be in the same kinds of positions as we are, but at the same time, I think that like I don't take that for granted. I always reflect and think about how much they struggle to get me to the point that I'm at. And I guess the only way that I take it for granted is I'm a big comparison guy. And like a lot of the people that I went to school with or a lot of people that I've met have always been super wealthy because I went to a very good school and everyone in that school was like doctors and lawyers and, all this kind of like bougie ass cars and this and that. And my parents are just like two bozo ass cleaners just putting their son through school because they wanted him to do better than anyone else.
They were, right?
Yeah. And like, but then at the same time, my parents didn't give two shits. My dad would hustle. He always has a mentality. He's like, if you were to bring anyone else to Australia and ask them to do what I did, they couldn't. I think that's such a sick mentality to have that he knows in the back of his head. He's like, no one can do what I did. And, when you really reflect on like their kind of life and what they did, you have to be super appreciative of what they've provided me. And I think that I get and that's why I don't really like spending to me is like there's no like money doesn't have a lot of like, I don't give two shits whether I have it or not. Like I don't need to go out and buy bougie clothes. I don't need to go out and party or whatever it is because I know what I have And if my appearance doesn't reflect that, that's irrelevant to me. At least, this is my perspective, I suppose. Like,
right, and I was gonna say there's like a lot of very, very, very rich people, like 1% people, less than 1% people that have more money than anyone will ever have in
correct.
their like family tree, that they dress like normal people.
Yeah,
They don't have $1,000 clothes. They have like a $5 shirt on. They have, a car, an affordable car that an average person can buy, because I feel like maybe they understand that, money isn't everything. You are spending an exorbitant amount of money on a normal thing that you can spend, 90% less of and still basically have the same exact thing.
yeah, that's right.
You can buy a Hanes t-shirt for $5, or you can buy a Balenciaga t-shirt for $1,000. You're
Correct.
still wearing a shirt at the end of the day.
Exactly.
you know, but I don't know. It's just
That no,
how it
that's the
is. Like
big.
for me,
Yeah, go.
I was gonna say for me personally, I'm not gonna say that I like buying expensive clothes. Like I do buy expensive clothes, but that's
Yeah,
just because I like how certain clothes look.
yeah,
So I'm not really just out here like, "Oh yeah, I won't wear this because it's not this brand." It's just
mm,
I don't like the other stuff that I'm seeing. The
yeah,
stuff that I like unfortunately costs money.
yeah.
So I'm just kind of like in that loop. I'm not going to just be like, "Oh, I will not drive this car because it's not $100,000." I'm not like one of those
No,
people. But there are
no,
people
it
out there
is.
that are like that. They're like, "Oh, I won't drive this unless it's a Lexus."
Exactly. Like, and I
Like,
think that there's like a really horrible mentality. I think like in Australia, I think like a lot of people like there's a lot of wealthy families, especially in like, I mean, all the people that I knew were just super rich, right? And every girl that I've been close with has always been super rich as well. And it's always funny when they find out who I am and what my parents do, and everyone gets perplexed and shocked. Like, how? And I'm like, because we just fucking work hard, man. Like, that's just what it is. Like,
exactly. Not everybody is a one percenter.
exactly, and I honestly, I sometimes I get in my own head, but I genuinely count my blessings every day that I'm not that I'm a hustler, like that I like work my fucking ass off to get to what I did, and no one's helped me. Only my parents and my family. No one's backed me. No one. I don't need anyone. In that regard. And I think that's always been like the best mentality for me. Has just been understanding like the money that I'm earning is because I'm the one that worked for that. And when my parents eventually go, they're not leaving anything behind. We haven't got anything, you know? And I don't, and you know what?
Right.
That I'm better for that because I know that it reminds me that I need to make sure that I have a foundation set so I can start the generational wealth cycle with me. And I can give to
Right.
the future generations and provide a foundation for everyone around me to ensure that everyone around me has a better life than what I do. Because I think that's probably our family's biggest. Our family has like two mottos: everything will work out in the end, and like make sure you leave it better than where you like. What is it? It's like leave things better than how like they started or whatever. Like make sure that like my parents' mentality is like make sure that the kids have a better life than we did. And now my mentality is like when I eventually have a family, it'll be making sure that they have a better life than I did. And hopefully that kind of mentality continues to go forward. And I guess that kind of starts with having the money to make the investments and do the right things to ensure that the foundation can begin and you can kind of just, excel from there.
Yep. For me, I was like when I was younger, and I guess maybe you could say even now a little bit to an extent, is I was very spoiled when I was a little kid and growing up. I only lived with my mom and my mom's side of the family. I
Mm-hmm.
don't associate anything with my father's side.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm the only kid, so my mom and my grandmother were to this day actually very overprotective of me.
Yeah, totally.
So in a way, I was given everything, but in a sense, it kind of sucked because they would limit me from doing certain things because they
Of
were
course, yeah.
scared.
Yeah.
Um, so everything that I've learned, like every type of skill I have, I taught myself.
Yeah.
I've
100%.
really in that sense, I've never had anything given to me. Like
Yeah.
every sport that I learned how to play, I was never put on sports teams. They didn't like. I'm not gonna say they didn't let me do that, but they never introduced me to that. They never pushed me to do that stuff.
Yeah.
They kind of just let me just be Eric.
Yeah.
They So like every sport that I learned how to play, I learned myself just from not even like watching YouTube videos. Like basketball, for example. When I learned how to play basketball, I started in 6th grade. I used to run with the basketball like I was playing like American football. Like I
Yeah.
didn't know what I was doing. I was
Yeah.
just doing it. But I taught myself how to play basketball
Yeah.
from actually watching like NBA basketball
Yeah.
and playing 2K.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say I'm good, but I could
Yeah.
like I know how to play basketball from stuff
Yeah.
like that. And whether it be video games, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I don't have really that many skills, but the stuff
It's
that I
hard
could do,
to
I taught myself.
but that's the thing, it's hard to like determine your own skills though. I think if you would ask somebody else, like, like you're charismatic, you have an ability to conversate, you're very approachable, like those are things that like you can't really distinguish within yourself, but then other people around you will be able to notice that and see that. But I completely agree on the skills front. Like my parents didn't, bro, I didn't have Wi-Fi in my house till I was like 10 years old.
Oh
Like
wow.
we didn't even have internet for a long time. Like these are all things that I just had to learn and do. Like my parents didn't know what a fucking computer was. They didn't know what a mobile phone was. But these are things that you just have to like accept that like this is your household, this is your family. Like you got to learn things together. You got to grow and like then you start building it. Like you think somebody really taught me how to like program, or somebody taught me how to go to university and get a degree or study? Bro, my parents, obviously different situations, but like both my parents, don't have degrees. Like they don't. They came from Syria from when they were like very young, and they obviously you come into a whole new country, you have nothing, you can't speak the language, like you don't have time to go to university and get a fucking master's in whatever it is. My parents came here, they started cleaning shit, literally. Like they started cleaning shit, like and they just said, we got to make money, got to get the kids in school, got to get them doing. No one taught me that I had to study. No one taught me that I had to do anything. The only thing they taught me was just how to have good morals, be a good human being, have good values, respect. The biggest thing they taught me about was money. Actually, my dad is a wizard. He can't speak a lick of English, but for some reason he knows the ins and outs of the interest rates and the mortgage system and how to do this. And I'm like, how the fuck do you know any of this shit? But you can barely speak it. Like, he's like, yeah, you want to split your loan and do this, and I'm like, bro, what? Like, how do you know this shit, man?
I'm like,
But
you're saying words you don't even know what you're saying.
what is it? What does mortgage mean? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, but you know what the fuck to do, right? So like that, and I think that's the thing I'm forever grateful for, is that like they've taught me, the value of money. They've taught me what it means to have it and how to hold it and what to do with it and how to be cautious. I think at the same time, like you said, I think, my parents were super protective for a long time. I think they've eased off a lot now, but like, not to throw them under the bus and make me seem cringe, but like, my parents were against the idea of, like a relationship while we were still in school and we were getting an education and getting a job per se, because they were afraid. They didn't want
Right.
us to get caught up in that kind of stuff and then give up on, getting a degree or getting a good job. And now that everything's settled, like obviously they've now the expectations a bit different. They want kids, they want a family. But then on the contrary, it's pretty hard to do that now because I haven't had the formative years of being able to talk to girls or get into relationships or whatever the case may be, because you lose out on like 6 or 7 years of those, like the years of like 18 to like 25 are the most like primitive years of like learning and experimenting and trialing and failing, and now that I've got a good job, I have 2 degrees, I have good education, like now I have to start experimenting and figuring shit out, and that's tough because you're sat there like an absolute bozo talking to people, and then people are like, you're weird, and I'm like, bro, because it's the fucking first time I've done this shit, man. Like you can't, you gotta be
Exactly.
patient in that, but I mean, at the same time, like I wouldn't want it any other way, because I know that like if I let myself like, and I've seen it as well, like when I let myself kind of go and do whatever, I kind of let everything fall to the wayside. So I'm kind of appreciative at the same time that I just put my head down. I got everything. I learned everything. I got a great job now. I have a really good lineup for the future. Now it's time to like go do other stuff and be like, do whatever it needs to do. So like, I think moral of the story is that like, I'm super appreciative of everything that's been taught to me and given to me.
Yep. I 100% agree with everything you have to say.
it's a
And on that, I think on that note, it's a very, very good segue for our next topic. As the rom-com connoisseurs that we are,
yes, but of course, but of course, sir.
but of course, we have to talk about the ladies'
No, no, I know.
relationships,
I want to
all
preface
the
it
toxicity.
by saying, Flash, if you're listening to this, don't block me. Flash said, if you guys talk about women the whole time, I'm gonna block you. So it's only half of it. So hold that, bud. No, we're not. I don't think we're gonna be super cringe about it, but like,
Nah, I'm just gonna I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, to get girls you gotta blah blah blah. No,
I don't know how to get
good.
girls. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know shit. Like, I ain't got. If somebody knows, please tell me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think the hardest part, especially like in Australia, is that there is such a there's such a like a path, right? Like, I think in the sense that
Okay.
like there's such like a natural like climate for people. Like, as a non-white person, you're already on the back foot in Australia. I would personally say, like, you know, and because you're different, your family's different, your cultures is different. Like, that you may be like religious or you're not, or like you follow this or you don't, and like it's a very weird kind of dichotomy. Like, I think Australian people seem to, I think you're either born confident or you're not, and I'm definitely not.
Yeah.
And then that has naturally played a huge role in me being unable to like get things like going. Or if I have, which I have, I end up ruining it because I'm like, this is too good to be true. Let me screw around for way too long, and then nothing ever pans out, and then you're left back at square one.
Yeah, I'm only gonna just speak for me. I'm not gonna speak for everybody. I
No,
feel
exactly.
like for me growing up, it's kind of just been like the situation that you're in. Like when you're in school, you know, you're kind of locked into that place. You're going there every day. You're gonna see
Yeah.
X and so person every day. It's consistent. Then once you get out of your elementary through high school, you're kind of in a place where okay, am I gonna start working or am I gonna go to college? College, kind of the same thing, but to a lesser extent because yes, you're gonna see so and so person every day, but it's a little bit more free, a little bit more like you have like the ability to explore. Work, on the other hand, is more similar to school, but low key, very low key. You're not supposed to do it at work.
Correct. Yeah, exactly
um,
right.
but then, like, if you're in that space where you're working, but you're not looking for anything at work, or you're not at work, you're kind of in that space of okay, so where does this happen? If
Correct.
you're not a very outgoing person, I'm not gonna say nothing is ever going to come, but it's going to be a lot less likely of something happening. If you're just always home, always doing this, you don't really have that many opportunities to meet people. It's very awkward to just approach people that you've never met for like for like a 2-minute conversation where you try to get to know them and you're like, oh, can I get your number, blah blah blah. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
very awkward. If someone came up to me and did that, I would feel very weird.
Totally.
Even if it was like a very attractive girl and they straight up just said like, hey, I like you, can I get your number? Like, in a sense, I would still feel awkward. I'd probably say yeah, but I would still feel like, what the fuck?
Exactly, because it's a very
um,
uncommon. Generally, it's a very uncommon thing to occur.
exactly. And I feel like, and nowadays we have like dating apps and stuff like that. But I personally, I don't use them. I don't like, cause I don't know. I like to actually, meet someone and get to know them a little bit. Like, I don't like to just be like, oh yeah, this girl's hot. Let me just message her. Hey, what's up? And just start a complete conversation with somebody that I've never met,
Yeah.
like literally. It's like a different vibe, and that's why I feel like dating nowadays at least is a lot more difficult, and especially because social media, because now
Oh, don't get me
you know
started. It's crazy.
everybody, girls at least in this extent, have just access to everything, every guy that they want to talk to or whatever. Back in the day it was just you got to
What's
get
there is
lucky or you
there.
did it.
Yeah, that's right. And like, I guess like this, like, I guess we should probably say this is going to become from a completely one-sided conversation. I'm sure girls or ladies or whatever have a completely like different perspective on this, and we
Of
appreciate
course.
that. And we can't talk to that though. We're going to talk to what our experience is, you know. So if there are any ladies that are listening, message me on Twitter. I kept no, but like I guess we should preface and say we like we apologize and be completely one-sided kind of conversation in terms of like relationships and talking and meeting people and stuff. But I think that the hard thing I guess for me was that like I went to an all boys school from 4 to 12, from grade 4 to
Oh
grade 12.
man.
You know, so already you don't have any access at all. So I remember the first girl that I talked to, like that, you know, we started something it was a random message on Facebook, completely random one, and then that started something, and then that ended up falling to the wayside. You know, eventually, like it kind of broke down and stopped working, and then I went lone wolf for like a fucking long ass time, and then eventually I ended up, you know, the thing is, I don't know how I did it, but something just came over me. Like I remember I was at uni. And it's like I was in like an IT management class, whatever, and this absolutely gorgeous girl pulled up to the class, and I was like, "What the? That's not true. That doesn't happen." And then I remember, I don't know what came over me, but I just approached her, started talking, we hung out the whole day, and then that was my biggest fumble of all time, because now we don't talk anymore, even after being
why is
super
that?
duper close. That's on me, I think, a lot of it, but I think I didn't realize, like, I think that I kind of diminished my own confidence a lot of the time, because I let myself assume that I don't have any, but then at the same time I was able to just approach someone completely random and just spark something, right? And then that
Right.
had its natural ups and downs, and you know, at one point we're together, the next point we're not, and blah blah blah. And that lasted 2.5 years, 3 years, and then eventually we, you know, she stopped messaging me. Then I ended up pulling the plug. Shout out Ryoiin, because he actually hopped on all the socials and just removed her completely from everything. Because I ended up like getting so in my own head that I just couldn't handle shit. I couldn't even use my phone. I couldn't, because I was just there was this constant paranoia of like, when am I going to get a response? When am I going to get a message? Why isn't she talking to me? What's she doing? Blah blah blah. Like, so I just had to completely detach. Now I'm where I'm at, you know, and like I think, at least for me, I've used dating apps in the past. I'm currently using them now. It doesn't work for me. I've kind of accepted, because I don't know if it's either I have bad photos, or like I'm unattractive, or people don't, you know, blah, 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 all these kinds of things. But it just doesn't work for me. I don't get matches, you know, just to be transparent. No one talks to me. Like, you know, I'm kind of just existing right now, which is, I
Right.
think, a very interesting, which kind of like plays into what you were talking about before. Like, if you're just existing, something might happen, but for the most part, it probably won't.
Exactly. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my past experiences and what I'm currently dealing with right now.
Yeah.
So, growing up from when I was little to like when I was in 12th grade, I didn't really get a lot of girls. I had like two or three girlfriends throughout school. It was very minuscule stuff. Honestly, I don't even consider them relationships because, you know, I was a little kid.
Yeah.
So it's just like not really. So I guess technically speaking, I've never had like an actual genuine girlfriend. And this is super sad. Every girlfriend that I've had, I've never had a girlfriend throughout the duration of my birthday or
Oh, me too.
Christmas or
Yeah.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah, me too. Yep.
All of my girlfriends were summer flings.
Always.
So I've never got to like genuinely like experience that with someone, which it really does suck.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, you know, growing up, I've never been someone that, you know, got girls or whatnot. At some point within the last year and a half to year, I started to just kind of I tried to like focus more on myself. I started to try to improve on myself, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I never really did. So like I started like, you know, started working out. I started like taking care of like my skin. I don't really when I was younger, I used to have like a lot of acne. I got older, that kind of stopped, but I actually started using like skin products and like it kind of made my face look a little bit better. I started kind of experimenting with my hair. I always used to have like shorter hair.
Yep.
I've been growing out the top as of recently,
Mm-hmm.
and I've come to the consensus with me at least that I think I look better with longer hair than
Yeah.
I did with shorter hair. I have glasses now throughout like my 90% of my life. I didn't have glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and one thing that I always knew at least was I was funny. So I always had that going for me.
Yeah.
But I run into this problem, and I've had this with the last 4 girls that I've talked to. Two of them that I'm talking to right now.
Yeah.
For some reason, I only attract girls that have boyfriends.
Yeah.
That is my issue. I don't know why. I do not start these situations.
Mm-hmm.
They started with me. I know, and it's not even like that I don't know that they have boyfriends. I
Mm-hmm.
do,
Mm-hmm.
but they just start talking to me in ways and in amounts of times that they should not be talking to me.
Mm. Mm.
And it just gets me to this point where it just happens. It's like I didn't want it to happen, but it
Yep.
did. And unfortunately, all of these were actually at my recent job.
Yep. Yep.
So back when I first this is literally when I first started, like my first week, I found out this girl that worked there at the time, she was pretty, she had a boyfriend, whatever. I knew all that.
Mm-hmm.
She asked me for my number. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
She starts texting me like a lot, like
Yeah. Yeah.
like an abnormal amount of a lot. And I'm like, okay. Then
Mm-hmm.
she starts to call me.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm like, and I'm not talking like 5-10 minutes. I'm talking like 2-3 hour
Yeah.
conversations.
That's a
But
lot.
yeah, like that's a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and then like she ended up starting to hang out with me. She ended up started complaining to her boyfriend about like to me, like all this crazy shit. Like it even got to the point where I got her a Christmas gift. She wore this Christmas gift to her boyfriend's Christmas party. They got into a fight. Christmas Day, she called me, asked me if she could stay at my house, and I
Oh
ended up
no.
taking her out on Christmas.
Oh my
Like
days.
like that shit's fucked. That situation is done. What ended up happening was at some point her boyfriend told her to stop talking to me. At that
Yeah.
point, I was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm
100%.
done. And I stopped talking to her like 3 or 4 months. I remember like I haven't talked to this girl in like months. I was sitting at the same exact computer desk I'm sitting at right now. It was
Yep.
like 11 o'clock in the night. I think I was either playing a Gacha game or watching a YouTube video.
Yep.
I got a random call
Oh
like
no.
almost midnight. Midnight. I'm like, what? I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Exactly.
I pick up. She got into a fight with her boyfriend.
There we
She
go.
basically said she broke the first thing she said to me was, "Hey, do you want to hang out tomorrow?" That's the first thing she said to me
Rah.
after not talking to me for 4 months.
Rah.
Yeah. So she ends up, I guess, breaking up with her boyfriend. The next day we end up, we meet up, we go out and whatever. That whole conversation we had on that phone, completely gone. Back together, everything's going, blah blah blah. I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
And
100%.
I cut that off because I'm like, all right, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. Exactly right. I don't blame
Then
you.
a couple more months went by, and I got into, I guess, a love triangle.
No, my man,
Yeah,
man's
with
fucking
me.
this. He's living Oregairu as we fucking the rom-com connoisseur right now. He's doing it himself.
But I'm in the middle. But guess what? These two new girls, they both also have boyfriends.
Bro, what is going on, man?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like why? Like why is this happening? Like this is stupid. So I was
Fucking.
talking to this one. So I was talking to this one girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
She she and I like we clicked like really quick,
Yeah.
and like I kind of noticed it. I was like in my head, I was like, I think she likes me, but honestly, at this point, I was like, I don't even know if I have a good enough sensor or radar to tell if this is genuine
Yeah.
or not. And plus, I'm like in my head, I'm like, yeah, but she also has a boyfriend.
Yeah. Exactly. You're right.
So
That's
I'm
always
just
gonna play
like,
like ring alarm bells no matter what.
so I'm just like, what the fuck? So I just kind of, I let some time go by, and one of our coworkers tells me because I talked to a different girl as well, which we'll get to that at some point.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, "Oh, you messed up, right?" I'm like, what do you mean I messed up? She's like, so and so likes you. I'm like,
Raw.
wait, what? What do you mean? So she tells me that she went up to this girl and said, "Oh, Eric likes you, right?" Even though I didn't
Oh,
even say
hey,
this.
that's crazy.
I was like, this is like some crazy wingman shit, but I was like, what the fuck?
What a goat. What a
And
goat.
the girl has a boyfriend. She's like, "Oh, really? Oh, I like him too." And I'm like, "What the fuck?"
Nah, man.
So I'm like, at this point, I have not flirted with her. I've done nothing. I've just been Eric. Like I've
Yeah.
done nothing. So I'm like, all right. I'm like, all right, let me try some shit. So I pull up on the computer because we could talk to each other on our
Yeah,
computer. So I'm
team.
like,
Yeah.
hey, it was a Saturday. I was like, oh, so what are you doing after work? He's like, oh, I'm meeting up with someone, blah blah blah. So for whatever, we have 2 branches at my job. It's
Yeah.
across the street from each other. I ended up getting to go across the street very briefly.
Yeah.
So I pull out my phone. I'm like, all right, watch this shit. So I pull up my notes app. I basically ask her. I'm like, do you want to hang out after work or whatever? And like I show it to her, and she just looks up to me and like smiles and nods. I'm like, oh, all right.
All right, done. Moving
So
on.
we were actually only supposed to talk for like 30 or 40 minutes or so. I ended up sitting with her for like 3 hours.
Oh my
I was just
days.
like, okay. So that kind of started that to get going.
Yeah.
And then like it kind of got to like a situation where like 2 weeks into it, like it was getting a little bit more serious. So she kind of like basically told me like she doesn't want to do this, blah blah blah, so and so. But
Yep.
she doesn't like to talk about these things over text. She wants to talk about it in person.
Right.
So
Okay.
we end up meeting up like one day after work, another like 3 hour conversation. She ends up telling me all of these crazy things now. She's like, oh yeah, I would jump from this to this situation. I'm kind of don't really even know why I'm in this situation.
Right.
I'm just kind of waiting for something to happen to break up with my current boyfriend. I'm like, what the fuck's going on?
Raw.
But by the end of this conversation, she ended up like holding my hand. I don't know how that happened.
Oh my.
And I literally said to her, I'm like, send this to your boyfriend.
That shit's scary as fuck, though. To
It
me at
is,
least, because you don't
but
know what's going on. You know what I'm saying?
exactly. But unfortunately, this story is gonna get a lot worse.
There we go.
So now, like 2 or 3 days after this, we ended up. It was the week of my birthday,
Mm-hmm.
and that coworker that I guess wingmanned me, she was quitting. So they kind of wanted to go out for
Yeah.
whatever. So it was just a couple of the coworkers. My fellow supervisor was there, so I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm not gonna do anything crazy because
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So I made a very bad mistake that day. It was on our Friday shifts. We work from 8 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. That's
Raw.
Obviously a lot of time.
Yeah.
I did not eat this day. I did not
Oh,
eat at
you
all.
clown! You fucking
I did not
clown!
eat.
And you drank, didn't you?
We got
You
these $40 drinks.
you fucking idiot! You're so
This
dumb.
and I'm at this point, I'm like, you know what? I took like 10 shots of Hennessy in prior days. Like, I'm
I
good.
was
Like
fine.
I could do this. I could
My
do this.
brother.
I'm not a lightweight no more.
Oh no.
It's going good. We're eating.
Yeah.
I'm not. Me and her, we're not flirting or anything.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't remember how we got to this point. I was sitting next to her, and then whatever, whoever else was there. We're
Yeah.
sitting there. She turns over to me, and she's just like, "Well, why don't you just hold my hand then?" And in my head, I'm like, "What?
What are
The
you
fuck?"
doing? What is going
I'm
on?
like, "All right." I'm like, "All right." That's so I grabbed her hand, and now like
Yep.
we're like holding hands.
It's some straight anime shit, by the way, but
Yeah, like
I'm
some
just be
anime,
honest.
like some
This is
anime
some
shit.
straight anime shit, man.
But this should just it. As soon as that happened, it just went completely left field here. I don't know what the fuck happened. She put her leg over my leg.
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
We just started like fucking talking to each other like mad deep,
Yeah.
like right in each other's face because like we're both drunk. Then like we
Yep.
got back in this person's car and we're just like we didn't end up like kissing or anything. Like
Yeah.
we basically didn't do anything, but like it was bad.
Yeah. Exactly.
So after that, she basically says how she felt bad, blah blah blah. And it kind of like we had like another conversation
Right.
where she's like, she doesn't really kind of want to do this. But then it just kept happening. And then like it just kept picking up, picking up, picking up.
Yeah.
And we even had like one date where like I even got her to start like kissing me on like on my face. Like we were just doing like she was my girlfriend,
Yeah.
basically,
Right.
at this
Right.
point. But she has a
Raw.
boyfriend.
Raw.
Um, so that's one situation that's kind of settling down now.
Okay.
I have this other situation now.
This guy.
This one's very fucking annoying in a way.
Right.
So there's this girl on my job.
This job
I
is like the fucking Riz Central, by the way, bud. I don't know how you keep finding these ladies. This is your fucking job, bud.
Yeah,
it's
this is bad.
insane.
I gotta make sure. Hopefully, no one ever listens to this.
Yeah, I gotta, bro. You gotta keep this shit fucking locked away.
So, girl on my job, she was there from the start. But I never really talked to her because I always liked her, but I guess I'm not like I guess her beauty, it kind of intimidated me.
Right.
Like I felt like she was one of those people where I'm like, okay, she's kind of a little too attractive for me.
Right.
So I don't really she kind of felt like unapproachable in a way.
Yeah.
But as time went on, me and her started not talk like as in the sense of where we're at now, but like we started to just became a little bit more friendly with each other. And she actually had a very bad impression of me because from the first girl that I told you about,
Mm-hmm.
that first girl used to tell her because they were like best friends. The first girl used to tell her that like, oh, I was obsessed with her, like the other girl.
Right.
I was obsessed with her. Like she made me seem like I was like super creepy, and the girl like, and she didn't like me because she thought I was doing all those things, knowing that she had a boyfriend.
Right.
Meanwhile, it was actually the complete opposite.
Opposite. Yep.
And me and her actually ended up talking about it, and she realized like, oh wow, like that's crazy. And like I even showed her like text messages and proof and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the thing about this girl is she's like one, she's like she's pretty toxic.
Love
She's
that.
but she's very flirty though.
Mm-hmm.
Like you kind of gotta be careful with her.
Yeah.
So as time went on, we like randomly just got like a little closer, a little closer, a little closer. And then one day we ended up just starting playing games with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And also I said it already, but she also has a boyfriend.
Jesus.
um but from that point when we started playing games, we just started to talk. Like now we started talking every day, every day, every day, like
Mm-hmm.
texting like every day, like
Mm-hmm.
almost all day. And then like kind of weird stuff started to happen. Now, like it was literally at one point, she literally got into her boyfriend's car when we were leaving work, rolled down the window, and blew a kiss at me. While she's in
Mad.
her boyfriend's car.
Mad. That's so mad. That's
Yeah,
so
it's
mad.
I'm like, bro, this is crazy.
That's mad.
Um, she and then now starting to get called nicknames. I'm
Here we
getting
go.
called Boo. I'm getting called Love. I'm getting called My Love.
Oh
Like
my
all shit like
lord.
this, and it's just like it's like how do you just like not like yes I could just I can disassociate myself from the situation, but it's just kind of like I'm already in the situation, so it's like hard for me to do that.
Yeah.
And then now we have lunch every day together.
Yeah.
We call each other Boo, Love, My Love, this and that.
Yeah.
We talk on the phone now for like hours. We text them as soon as we wake up. We like it's just like in a sense you can basically say she's my girlfriend too.
Yeah. This guy.
Like
Wow.
but I'm always just like in a way I get the short end of the stick. And
Yeah,
my best
totally.
friend always tells me like it's like I'm their emotional boyfriend.
You are.
And
No,
not to
you
be
are.
not to be I guess vulgar, but whenever I tell my friend I'm like, oh yeah, I made some progress, he's like, yeah, but they're still gonna fuck. And I'm like,
Yeah,
well,
because that's
I can't say nothing about it.
yeah, that's what I mean. The unfortunate reality is that's true, right? Like that's just
Yeah.
what it is. Like, it's crazy. Like that's just such like what an insane predicament you've got yourself you're
I'm
in.
I'm 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 literally gonna tell you something that literally happened today. I woke up. I woke up this morning. I
Mhm.
got a text. I'm
Mhm.
talking to her for a couple minutes. She's
Mhm.
like, "Oh, call me," with a smiley face, and she's like, "Oh, what are you?" Oh, and actually, there's something else I'm gonna throw into this. I just remembered, but she's like, "Oh yeah, so call me, or are you too busy as expected?" I'm like, "Bro," in my head, I'm like, I just fucking woke up."
Bro, I'm awake right
So,
now.
so I call her. She's talking and talking her bullshit. She's like, "Oh yeah, I want this food place today. So you're gonna bring it to me for lunch, right?" Oh, but I'm just kidding. Blah blah blah. And then she kept talking. And she's like, "Oh yeah, and then when I get out, you're gonna pick me up and you're gonna walk me home, right?" It's like, bro, you don't say this shit and just say you're kidding because that obviously means that you want the person to
Correct.
fucking do it.
This is correct.
So I'm like, all right, whatever. So now I go, I work out, I go to the food place. I pick the food up. I don't say anything though, because I want it to be like a surprise.
Mhm.
Pull up to the job, give her the food. She's like super embarrassed and whatever. And she's like, "Oh, why did you do this?" I said, "I was kidding. I was actually supposed to go get this with my boyfriend after
Yeah,
work." I'm like,
I.
"Oh,
Yeah, I.
I'm,
Yeah,
I'm like,
I.
I literally said, oh, well, sucks to be him."
Hold that, bud, as some may say.
So then we were literally talking after work, and then I asked her this is word for word. I said to her like, "Oh, what are you doing?" She's like, "Oh, I'm just eating my lovely lunch that my boo got me." I'm like,
Bro.
"Bruh." And this isn't this is about
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
"Oh," I was like, "That's good." I was like, "Oh, I tried to surprise you." She's like, "You did, and I loved it." Had me blushing and shit. I'm like, "Bro, you don't say this stuff." And the one other thing to add to this before you put your input into it.
Yeah.
This girl gets extremely jealous when I talk to the other one that I was just telling you about.
Come on, man.
Like yesterday, I had to train her. We were sitting next to each other. I was training the one girl, and the toxic girl that I was telling you about was sitting next to us. She was side-eyeing me the whole day, giving me an attitude, this and that. Literally told me when I got out, she's like, "Oh yeah, you were all giggly with her, this and that." Literally told me word for word conversations that I was having with this girl.
I'm doing my job, man.
Earlier in the week, I wrote the other girl on the computer. I get a text from this girl saying, "Stop texting her." Literally got an exact text that I sent. She said, "Oh, you sent this. What else are you talking about? Don't speak to her ever."
Bruh.
And it's just like, it's crazy. And like, you shouldn't like be like even if she wants to say like, "Oh, I'm joking," or this blah blah blah, it's like, you're not. At some point, like, obviously you like me. I even did this. I predicted it action for action, word for word. I was with my coworker at my other place, and I told him, she said that, remember I told you she normally comes over for lunch? So she didn't come that day. She said that she was gonna have it with our other coworkers, which I mean, I don't care, obviously.
Right.
But I'm like, watch this. So she said that. So all I responded, she was just like, "No lunch today, love." I said, "Oh, okay." That's exactly how I responded.
Done.
I'm like,
yeah.
watch. Now I'm like, watch what's gonna happen. I told them, no matter what she says, I'm not gonna answer. So she sends a sad face to that.
Yep. Here we go.
Then she said, "Oh, well, I just felt bad because me and you always have lunch all the time."
Yeah.
No, I didn't answer this. Like 4 minutes later, Boo with a sad face.
Oh my
4
word.
minutes later, Eric with a sad face. And I tell him, I'm like, she's gonna call the work phone now. Watch. Like another 5 minutes later, she calls the work phone. And I told them to tell her, like, I'm doing whatever. She picks up the phone. You know what she says? "Where is he?"
Mad.
Like crazy. Like,
Mad.
and the other thing that actually happened the other day, this is like, in a way, it's kind of fucked up, to be honest. So me and this girl go to the gym, and I help her work out.
Here we go.
You know how like when you do like abs with somebody or whatever, like you kind of you put your hands like on their feet or whatever. You're like, I do this with her, so like I'm basically right by her leg, like not whatever. Wait, give me 1 sec. Hold up.
While Flame's doing that, just gonna remind everyone, like, this is all just conversation. This is all just chat. Like, don't get pissy in the comment section. We're just conversating about life. This is shit that happens in the real world. If you guys are upset with him, you can hold that. Don't worry. I'll give my perspective eventually on what happened with me, and it will not be as lighthearted and fluffy as what Flame said. Anyway, continue.
So we're sitting there super close to each other. So this girl has a hickey, like around like her chest, right?
Right.
Obviously, I don't want to see this.
Exactly.
She's like, "Oh yeah, well," she's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I have this." I'm like, "I don't want to see it." I'm like, "I don't want to see this."
I'm not trying to say that.
She's like, "Why?" She's like, "Why not?" I'm like, "Because I don't want to see it." She's like, "Oh, why? You wish it was yours?"
Huh?
And I'm just like,
Bro.
"Yes, but I'm not gonna say that."
Yeah, exactly. Hey.
So I'm just like, "No, I just don't want to see it." And she's like, "Yeah, I know how you feel about it." I'm like, "All right, well, whatever." And now she's standing there. Now she's just staring at me. I'm like, "Why are you staring at me?"
Do your
I'm
damn exercises.
I know you love looking at me. And she's like, yeah, well, what if I do? I'm like, bro, what the fuck?
What is
So
going
now,
on?
like I'm normally like mad sarcastic like about it, but now like this is like starting to make me feel like nervous because like I do like her. So now she's like, "Oh, what? You're getting red?" I'm like, "What the fuck? You're getting red too?" She's like, "Well, I'm just sweating." So I'm like, "All right." I'm like, "All right, whatever."
Yeah, all right.
Well, I'm like, "All right." So I'm gonna try something now that I used to do with the other girl, and like something I like to do is like I'll put like my hand on their face or whatever. But this girl, she she doesn't like to touch too much. So like if
Yeah,
whenever I
yeah.
tried to do it to her, she would like jump back. She
Yeah.
let me do it with no problem at this situation. I'm just like in
Different.
my head, I'm like you have a boyfriend, stop.
Because this is so much going on in my head that I want to
But
say,
yeah,
but I don't even know
you
what to
can
say.
you can that's basically what's going on for me as of right now. And it just like and I don't really know how to say how I feel. Like I'm just like I don't want to be a homewrecker, but I'm just kind of just I'm here. I'm just letting stuff happen. Um, it
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
all you
sucks
can
for
do,
me
though.
because it sucks for me because like at the end of the day, I can tell all these stories. Like yeah, certain portions feel good, but at the end of the day, I'm still by myself.
Correct.
I
Exactly
still
right. So I
I
when
have no
when
one.
you when you disappeared for a bit, I put the preface out there for people that are probably gonna be fuck Flame, he's a piece of shit. Like this is just what happens in the real world, man. This shit happens all the fucking time. This is real world shit. Like I don't think people should be upset or say cringe or whatever. Bro, this is the real life, man. This is the most unhinged episode. And this is the most real episode you'll ever hear from GGP. Period.
Yep.
Flame and I are putting our complete and utter like hearts on the fucking platter for you guys in this episode. We're not letting anything go to the wayside because that's just what we're that's the whole point of it. That's the whole point of today's kind of episode. But no, that's just fucking ridiculous. Like, isn't it funny how like when one thing happens, everything kind of just like happens at the same time? You can never just have like one thing. You can't have like one of those situations occur and then it just be one. It has to be like 20 that happen at the exact same time. Like when it rains it pours kind of thing. It never just spits. It's like it's always just...
Exactly, and that's kind of what happened to me. I went through
Exactly.
that first situation. That was from like November to like March.
Yeah.
After I got out of it, I'm like, okay, I'm never doing this again. Then it happens again, and I get hit with 2 at the same time.
Exactly. That's what happens though. Like it just always seems to like everything seems to always just occur at the exact same moment. You never get the opportunity to just like enjoy just the one or like at least be around for just the one moment. It always has to work out where everything happens at the same time and you have to juggle so many different things and so many different perspectives. And that's just a super challenging like thing you have to like deal with, I suppose, more than anything. Yeah, like it's a tough thing. I guess for me, probably to piggyback off you, but like with way less joy. Probably should speak on speak on my kind of stuff. So like yeah, that girl that I met at uni, we like hung out, super cool, super fun. Like it was all nice and stuff, and like things happened. You got close. And again, funnily enough, she ended up having a boyfriend, but her boyfriend was in America. So like he was at least American per se. I was like, yeah, whatever, cool. And then like eventually like we kind of just like stopped talking, and she was like hella pissed because eventually she broke, and then she messaged me, and then she was like blah 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 all this kind of stuff. Anyway, because you know what happened with me for me to find out she had a boyfriend, as per usual, alcohol gets involved. You know what I mean? You love it, right? I'm at a party, hanging out with my friends, and I really liked this girl. I really did. I felt something was there. She was great. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I've never done this before in my life. I'm just going to fucking send her. Send a drunk text. Hey, I like you. You go out with me. Mind you, I think she's in New York at the... She might be a girl with you. Hold on. No.
What's her name?
Fuck no. Anyway, she's like in America at the time, so obviously time zone difference. She eventually gets it, and then she says, "Oh, it's really sweet. However, I have a boyfriend. Like, I have blah 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 blah." I was like, "All right, cool, whatever. Keep it platonic, keep it friends. No big deal. Move on." Eventually, like things happen. You find out she's broken up with her partner, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." We get closer and closer and closer and closer and closer, like super duper close. It gets super like really cozy and comfy, and then like we're together, we're like cuddling, and then eventually I ask her like, do you want to do this? Do you want to like be my girlfriend? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, great. This has worked out. But then the entire car ride home, I felt sick to my stomach the entire time. And I was like stressed.
The day she said yeah?
Yeah. I felt horrible. I don't know what came over me. I felt horrible. Eventually I get home and I always go to my sister for advice. And I said to her, I was like, this is what happened. This is what I'm feeling. She's like, listen, Pierre, like, if you feel like that, it's not a good thing. Like, you know, like, it's not a good thing. Like, and she like said, you need to kind of be honest and say how you're feeling and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll see what happens. Anyway, the next day, me and this person hang out. And then she was like, oh, you're a bit off. I'm like, no, I'm fine, whatever it is. And then that evening, I kind of just pulled the plug, which is probably not the best thing to do. I understand that now. But at the same time, I felt like I had to do it because I did not feel good about myself. And I felt uneasy and uncomfortable with things. And I was hoping that she would understand. But at the same time, I didn't kind of expect her to understand. Anyway, said what I said. Things were awkward for a bit. And then obviously, eventually the ball got rolling again. We got back to being super close, but it never was officially labeled as anything. My best friend would say, like, you guys talk like you're a married couple. You guys fight like you're a married couple. You, like, it's all well and good. Like, you know, it should be a thing. Anyway, like, start of last year, there's a lot of scratchiness. Oh, no, sorry. Towards the mid of, what was it, 2020 maybe or something like that? 2021? No, 2021. Like, we graduated together. I'm going to be honest with you. Without me, she doesn't get a degree. I helped her ask for everything. That's just like fact and law. Because she used to try to get really close with all, like, the smart guys in class to help her get through shit. And, like, she was a very intelligent girl, but you could tell, because I remember there was this really creepo guy that would, like, always message her and shit. And she used to hate it, but she would keep responding. I was like, are you dumb? Like, why the fuck would you do that? Anyway. And then I remember, like, she got a job at this company that she really wanted to work for. And again, only reason she got this job was we were at breakfast and she said, what do I do? I said, what you do is you pick up the phone and you say, company A has offered me X, so I want you guys to offer me the same. And then she called them and said that, and then they ended up offering her more. So she ended up getting to work at the place that she loved. But this was her first job, period, was a full-time position. And she went into it, the full mindset of everything in her life now revolves around work. Every conversation we had revolves around work. She would go to parties with these work people. She would even do the things and say, like, oh, my work boyfriend and blah, blah, blah. But then flip to me and be like, oh, you're the best, I love you type beat, but still no relationship. We end up having fights and arguments and conversations, so you always flip-flop between this and that. And a really big thing that I had a problem with was that I latch onto things because I always think that they're too good to be true. So when I'm talking to someone, I then build this kind of anticipation or expectation that they're going to talk to me every day. They're always going to be available to talk to me. And naturally for this person, that wasn't the case because she didn't, quote unquote, like using social media. Mind you, now she uses social media all the time. So things change, right? I end up having like some sort of like, we have like a bit of a falling out and then she doesn't talk to me for ages. And eventually she talks to me. I end up dropping her off at a party that she was going to with her work friends, obviously. And I was like, I'll pick you up. She said, okay. It got to 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And I'm fucking watching RuneScape videos right now. I mean, I'm trying to stay awake. Like, I'm like, and then eventually, and I've called her maybe like 10 times. And she's like, why you call? And then eventually she called me. She's like, oh, I didn't see them. I left my phone away. And I was like, when do you want me to pick you up? She was like, oh, we're actually just getting an Uber right now. And I was like, bro, you asked me to pick you up. I said, I'll pick you up. You said, yeah. And then now it's like, no. Anyway, eventually I drive down there. And then when I get there, I see this guy. And this is a completely tangential thing, right? But I see this guy there. And I'm like, I know you from somewhere. You're recognizable. I used to look up to this guy at school because he was 3 years older than me. He was the Dux of our college, which means he got the highest scores. He was super jacked. He was hella smart. And I used to look up to this guy. And now he's at the party with this person. And I was like, well, that's competition. You know, I got to be better than him. He's like sitting there and he's like, oh, are you here for blank? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, do I know you from somewhere? I said, nah, man. I'll let it be. You know, I'll let him ponder on it. Anyway, I pick her up. We have a mad argument in the car, and again, I don't blame her for a lot of this stuff. I think a lot of it is on me as an individual, because again, I kind of felt go.
I was gonna say, I thought they were getting an Uber. What happened to that?
That's what happened. That's what I thought too. And then eventually, I was told, just come over and pick me up. And I was like, okay,
all right,
exactly. Weird shit, man. And then we get into a fight in the car on the way home, and some shit goes down, and like, I probably said a lot of shit that I shouldn't have said, which is just par for the course. And we stopped talking for a long time. And then again, we get to like, and again, I'm so far in my own head right now. Like, I'm literally at rock bottom pretty much. We get to like my birthday time. She's like visiting family or whatever. So I get like a really small happy birthday. She's like, oh, I'll see you next week. We end up seeing each other next week. It's great. And then her birthday was the following week. We see each other again, which is cool. And then the last time we talked was we went to this Christmas. Before all of this, my family was going through some shit. I'm not going to say what it was because it's very personal stuff. But She sends me this very long message. And in that message, she specifically lists out all the reasons why she will never love me again. And all the things that were wrong with me. And just this, it was like maybe like a fucking 2,000 word essay pretty much.
Wow.
And I sit there and I'm perplexed. She's like, oh, I can't go out with someone that doesn't give a shit about their mental health. So what do? I end up going to therapy for this person. But in reality, I realize that I need to go for myself. She's like, our families are very different. And I've always noticed that you're jealous of my family. And I was like, I don't think that's true. But anyway, then she was like, you're religious and I'm not. And that's a problem. And I was like, well, that's a bit cringe. But I mean, it is what it is. And all these kinds of things. And then I remember when we went out for my birthday, we went to this cafe. We got back in the car. We were just like talking. Everything was fine. And I asked her again. I was like, I want to know for myself, for my own closure, is there a possibility that you and I will ever be in a relationship? Like, because after like my first mistake, I realized that I had made the mistake. And then I spent 2 years trying to discover like what I wanted. And I wanted her. She was perfect. And then she just said straight up, straight face, she said no. And then you know what she said?
Damn.
She said, and this is the craziest part, the part that shook me to the core. She said, and I quote, I have spent the last 2 years of my life falling out of love with you. And I have finally gotten to the point. And I have finally gotten to the point where I no longer love you. Mind you, Flame, she's still cuddling. She's still holding hands. She's still wanting fucking forehead kisses and all this kind of nonsense shit.
I hate them. I hate them.
Like, and then I was like, and then for me, that was closure though. It was heartbreaking, but I could at least go home and be like, you know what? I know the truth. Anyway, we go to this market, this nighttime market. We get all this food. We're like, dancing. We're having all this kind of fun. And then like,
after she said that to you?
Yes. Insane, okay. Right? Okay, and then my friend kept saying, he's like, I think it's all bullshit because there's no way someone can say that, but then still act in that regard. It doesn't make any logical sense, right? Anyway, we get to this thing, and then she said to me, she's like, I'm going to try to be better about messaging you more. And I said, you don't have to. I was like, I'm coming to terms with everything. I was like, you don't have to. I was like, that's not who you are. And that was the last time we talked. The last time.
And when was this? This was last year or 2022?
This was, what was this? July last year. And then
2022?
Yeah, 2022. And then a couple weeks later, she goes on a, she's still not talked to me. But then she goes to Fiji with her family. She's posting Instagram pics and blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. And the funniest stuff, I should probably go back and say, like, she's like, oh, I don't use, like, Facebook Messenger anymore. Mind you, she gives me her phone because she goes to the bathroom. And then I'm not even, on my mum's life, I'm not looking. I don't give a shit. ping, 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 Facebook, 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 Facebook. And I'm like, okay. Like, don't, yeah, I was born at night, but it wasn't last night, lad. Like, you just don't want to talk. Anyway. Because her mantra was always like, if you want, just talk to me if you want to talk to me. And I always rebuttal and say, well, isn't that the same for you? She's like, I do. I'm like, but you don't talk to me. She's like, oh, I'm just busy. I'm like, bitch, you're not busy. I was like,
that is the biggest lie.
I'm like, bitch, you're not busy. I know you're not busy. I know you are. But now she is. Now she's got the new friend group, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I end up basically like having a huge mental breakdown, like really hitting rock bottom. And that's when like I started making my own decisions of like, give me a moment.
Yep.
Like, I need to be proactive about this. I need to like step away and accept that like I've spent 3 years of my life learning and accepting that as reality. Anyway, I end up linking up with Ryoiin. And basically I just tell him, hey, I'll hop on my phone and remove everything. Bless his soul, he does that. And I couldn't feel better about it. Because there's no longer an anxiety, there's no longer a stress, there's no longer anything. And like, at the end of the day, like, I made a mistake. I made tons of them. But I'm appreciative of the fact that like I got the opportunity, and now it's just like, you know, you kind of look at it and you're like, okay, back to square one, but you're better for it.
Right. And you know, everything's a learning curve. You know,
it is.
Unfortunately, you know, you had to go through that, but you came out of that as a better person. You know, you use that as a learning experience. You know, maybe at some point something, you know, similar may come from that.
Who knows, right?
At least, yeah, you have a better approach at it.
No, exactly, you know, right. Like that's the thing I'm like, I value the most. It's like, you know, I think what it taught me was that, you know, to really live the idea of like, if an opportunity presents itself, to just take it, as opposed to ponder and like not believe in it or anything. Like, that was the biggest thing that I learned from it, was that you need to, if an opportunity is there, take it and run with it and just see where it ends up going. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't. If it does, like, fantastic. But like you said, complete 180 shift, full, like, now I'm just working on me. You know, like you said, gym. I've got skin routine now. I've gone to the doctor. Like, I'm working on my sleep. I'm working on, like, my blood pressure problems. Like, it's just this constant now, just, like, I'm spending so much money and time on just bettering myself and becoming more confident in me. And then going from there. And that's kind of, like, I mean, the value of it.
That's the best thing that you can do. Even if you're doing, even like if you were doing it for like a certain reason, you're like, oh, I'm gonna work on myself so I can, you know, get this or get that. You know, you should always genuinely work on yourself. It's It's kind of cliche to say, but it's like your life in a way, treated as like a video game. Like, you're upgrading like your character.
Totally.
You know, all of these things at some point are going to benefit you, and the more that you focus on yourself, the more you kind of, you know, push everything outwards. You know, more will come to you, because you're, you know, you're focused on this. And in a way, people find that attractive. They're like, wow, this guy has this type of mindset, or wow, this person's so motivated to do this and this, and that like attracts people. So whether you're doing it for a reason or not, I think it's good to always, you know, be happy with yourself, take care of yourself. You know, at the end of the day, it's your life. You're the most important person in your life. So you should always come first.
Exactly right. Totally. No, I 100% agree. I will say one of the funniest stories, which this is completely tangential, and it's going to sound really boastful, but I think it's hilarious. So this girl was super rich. Like, they're clear. Like, bro, like, clear. Right? One day we're like sat down, and she, like, I don't know why it popped up in conversation, but I think we're talking about like houses. Because like, oh, I want to buy something. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, that's cool. Just be careful of blah, 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 blah. Anyway, she's like, how much money do you have? And I was like, why? I'm just curious. And then I just said, I'll show you my bank if you show me yours. Like, genuinely.
Oh God.
And I was like, she was like, oh, okay. And then she's like, all right, how much do you have? And I showed her like my bank. I'm not gonna say numbers, but no, you know what? I am gonna say numbers because fuck it, right? This is like when I was like, what, 23? And mind you, people may be better, people may be worse off. It is what it is. I have two banks at the time. I had a spending account and a savings account. In my spending account, I had $15,000 in my spending account, and she was like, "Huh?" She was fucking lost because I was like, "Guess how much?" And she was like, "Oh, you have $400, let's say, in your spending." And I was like, "Bro, no shot." I had 15 bags in the spending account. And she's like, "No, that's your savings." I'm like, "No, that's my spendings." Anyway, she shows me hers. She has like $400. I'm like, "Okay, cool, whatever. It is what it is." Savings account. I was like, "Okay, here's mine." I had 60,000 or something like that saved.
Okay.
And then she just like lost it. She was like, "How do you have where's this money coming from? How do you have it?" I'm like, "Bro, because I've been fucking working my ass off since I was 16 years old, making money. I don't spend money on anything. I don't buy clothes. I don't buy nice things. I don't have Gucci this, LV fucking that like you do. Like I wear the same clothes every fucking day. I do the same shit every day. I don't eat food. I don't do fucking anything. I just want to have money because that's the most important thing in my family was that always have money in case of emergency. Always have money. Just always be prepared for anything." And then she never showed me her savings because she was so embarrassed. And I was like, hold that, by the way, just first and foremost. But secondly, I was like, don't. And that was the first moment where I was like, yeah, you fucking step to the champ, you best not miss, right?
Exactly.
Like, I was like, I don't tell shit. Because I don't look the part. I think that's the funniest part is that I don't look the part. Like, I remember, like, even like completely tangent to that. I remember somebody at work was like, he was like, "Oh, how can you afford a house? Mind you, it's an apartment, but I call it a house anyway." He's like, "How can you afford that? Like, I'm older than you and I can't." I was like, "Bro, because I've been saving." And then he started chatting shit to me. And I was like, "Listen here, I could sell that place right now and profit $300,000. So stop chatting." Quieted him up completely. Because I was like, people just talk, man. Like, I don't know, not to get back into the money conversation or whatever, but like, it's funny how like money can be used as such a like a comparator or like a stature thing. When like in reality, when you die, you have nothing. So who gives two shits what you have in your pocket or what you own?
Yeah, or it's going to whoever you put it in trust to, which they didn't do shit for.
Exactly. Like this same girl, bro. LV this, Gucci that, Louis Vuitton this, Burberry this. Her dresses cost like fucking 4-5 figures, man. I'm sat here fucking t-shirt and Adidas track pants, lad. But then every time we go to buy stuff, bro, clear. She's like, where, how, what? I'm like, you don't need to know. I was like, bro, when I first met her, I had two phones, right? I had the OPTC phone and I had my regular phone. Right? I had two phones. And she's like, "What are you doing on the second phone?" I was like, "It's business. Don't worry about it.
It's business.
It's my business phone." And she's like, "What does that even mean?" And I was like,
"Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it." But I think the biggest thing that I find hard of like, accepting was like, the coolest part was that she was super supportive of everything. Like, she didn't know, she didn't understand, but she still was supportive. Like, even when it came to shit like the award show, back before, thankfully, like, Ryoiin now does everything for me. So, like, God bless his soul, man. Like, you know, he's such an incredible human being. Like, you know, Ryoiin's genuinely my fucking day one. But, like, she would, like, go through and, like, edit this and, like, she'd go make sure the wording was correct and I didn't sound like a fucking bozo. And, like, she would, like, watch the podcast at home or, like, you know, she was the one that prompted me to make the Captain's Lodge and, like, you know, start that whole series because she wanted something to listen to that was, like, interesting and such. Like, super supportive. And I feel like my biggest deterrent right now is that, like, will I be able to find someone or something that is supportive in that regard? And I guess Stump gave me a really good perspective on it because he was like, you don't need to find someone that's supportive because, like, that doesn't matter. They should just, the person should just care about you. And if you enjoy, let's say, playing Treasure Cruise or making YouTube videos, they don't have to be supportive of that. They should just care that as long as you're happy, like that's the most important thing. And that kind of really like put me at ease, I suppose, more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, for in certain situations, I feel like for me, like I guess girlfriend wise or whatever, I don't personally per se want someone where I'm like, oh yeah, I just want someone so I could do this, this, and this with them. I
Yeah.
just kind of want someone that I could just talk to about anything or everything whenever I want. Like that's, I guess, in a way, like cliche, like a best friend.
Oh no, and that's what I had with this person, right? Because it's like that was the easy thing, and then obviously as things broke down, I lost it, and then you lose that like good morning, good night type thing. You lose the like I was so far in my own head. I had to put my phone in focus mode so I couldn't access any apps until like 5 p.m. because like I would always be just checking and checking and checking, and I wouldn't get work done, and that would affect me mentally because I wasn't progressing as I should have, and then the funny part is everything ends. I get 2 promotions in a month. Like, it's like, it's crazy how much you hold yourself back because I guess comfort is complacency at the end of the day. You get too comfortable, you get complacent. You stop giving a shit. And that's like the biggest thing my friend and my friend Nathan and I kind of hold is that like we never want to be too comfortable in what we do. Because as soon as you get comfortable, you stop trying your best, you stop worrying, you start gaining weight, for example, you start like not giving a shit about yourself and what you're doing because you're happy, you're comfortable. But I think for me, I don't want to be comfortable anymore. I want to always be pushing and striving, and I don't want to get complacent, which I guess is easier said than done, but at the same time, I think it's still very plausible and very important.
Yep. It's crazy crazy world we live in,
Weird.
Papi.
I think so, and I think hopefully people can get something from these conversations that we're having. That's probably like my dream. If you don't, doesn't matter either way. But I think that Flame and I are saying this stuff, so maybe you have a similar situation, or maybe you've experienced something and you're able to just like recognize that it's crazy, but everyone goes through this stuff. You're not alone. It's tough. It is. But unfortunately, that's the way the world works. And, you just have to keep going. That's it.
Yep.
All right. And any last comments before we get into the advice? We're like 2 hours in. So
I was expecting this to be a crazy one, so I didn't mind. But yeah, I was gonna say like in like one other little touch on my situation I was going into. Yeah, like sometimes like it kind of just like it demoralizes me, like because
totally, without a doubt.
Yeah, because I'm just like I don't know, like sometimes like I feel like I don't know if I'm being used, if I'm being played. I don't know, like is this just what I'm meant to go through?
Yeah.
Like I remember I got into a fight with her like a couple of weeks ago where like remember how I told you how like she acts like super toxic and jealous and whatever. So like if I don't text her for X amount of time, she'll text me like hours later like excuse me, or like something of that nature, like basically why aren't you texting me? So since she does that to me, I do that to her. I'm not gonna say I don't really care as much.
Right.
It does actually bother me, and I explained this to her later in this conversation where I was like, we're at the point where we literally talk every day, all day. That obviously if I don't talk to you for X amount of time, it's gonna bother me. So like I said, she did that to me, so I did it to her that day.
Yeah.
And I explained that to her. I'm like, oh well, this is what's going on. And she's like, oh well, it's okay to not talk for X amount of your time. I don't want to feel forced to talk to you, blah blah blah. And it was like a whole thing. Yeah. And then a couple days later, this is basically completely out the door when we're back doing it again. Of course. It's like they get mad at you.
Yeah.
They get mad at you. Then if you get mad, then it's your fault, and now you have to say sorry.
Yep. That's how it always happened with me. I always found it like I would like every situation would end up being a fight, for example, and then I would just find it easier to just accept fault and move on because it was just easier, because she would never accept that anything was her fault. Because I feel the same as you. I've been like reflecting on it a lot, and I think that because like this girl had like heavy social anxiety, heavy depression, all this kind of stuff, and I was like her touchstone. And I think that after like she had got the job, she had met a bunch of new friends, and she was like going out and partying and drinking and all this kind of stuff. I think that after she had kind of like gotten, I guess, quote unquote, gotten over or improved on that depression, social anxiety, she didn't need me anymore. I think that was kind of what happened. Whether that's true or not, I'll never know. But like, I think what she realized was like, I don't need this person anymore, because like that person was there to support me in those times, and I'm no longer in those times. So I don't need to keep him around. I have other friends now. I have other boys I'm talking to. Like, he's not needed anymore. I think I've kind of accepted that that's probably the most likely possibility of what's occurred. And like, I mean, to each their own. At the end of the day, if I'm able to improve another person's life, then so be it. I suppose like it's not the best outcome, but I mean, like, what are you gonna do? Like, continue to be upset about it? Like I am. I'm still extremely distraught by this whole situation. But I mean, like, it did feel very heavily towards I wouldn't say I was being used, but there definitely was like an element of I need a friend, or this is her being like, I need a friend, or I need someone to to just sit with me and hang out. And when I'm depressed, not to be upset, and had a like social anxiety and all this kind of stuff. And I wasn't good at it at first, but I definitely improved on like that kind of stuff, which I mean is great just to have that kind of forte regardless. But I think at the end of the day, like, I've kind of really accepted that that's the reality of it. And like, I guess like also like probably should say as well, like she was like 2 years older than me. Yeah. So, and I guess in my family, like that's generally like the guy should be older than the girl. So I think that also played a factor in my head. So I like, I would always think like, oh, what are my parents going to think? What are like people blah, 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 blah going to think? I think that I shouldn't have let that happen, but I mean, it did. And I guess like for her, she was catching up on a lot of time where she didn't go out, she didn't have fun she didn't drink, she didn't party, blah, blah, blah. It was all just, she was like that. She was so far depressed and stuff where she would just spend every night at home and do nothing. And, I guess like for those formative years, as I call them myself, from like 21 to like 25, like you spend a lot of your time like going out and like having fun and like doing different things where she wouldn't do that. So I think now that like she's out of that bubble, I think she's now just experiencing that now, and she's like trying to get back the years that she didn't have. And I mean, fair enough, I suppose. Like, it is what it is at the end of the day. You can't really complain about it. Every person's living their own life, has their own problems and struggles. Like, so you don't know. I always say to my friend, I'm like, he always says to me, he's like, you don't know what's happening. She could be getting fucking laid out by some guy, or she could be at home crying. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what the situation is for people. You just have to keep your head down and keep working, and eventually things pan out. You end up feeling better about shit, and you just you move on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, after I heard you say that, I realized I never even mentioned it. The toxic girl is 3 years younger than me. Her birthday is like in 2 months, so I guess technically 2 years. The other girl, she's 20, so she's a lot younger than me.
Yeah.
So I guess maturity factor plays a big role in this as well.
Yeah.
In both of our cases, we were older, and I feel personally, every year that you get older, you become a lot wiser.
Totally.
So we're looking at it from one perspective where things make a lot more sense in our eyes, and compared to theirs, where I guess you can say that maybe they're not immature, but they're less mature than us.
So, oh no, sorry, mine was older than me. She was 2 years older than me. So there was a lack of
2 years younger.
Yeah, my bad. I might have said it wrong. 2 years older than me. Yeah. So like there was so you would expect her to be more mature than me, but that just that just was not the case.
Right. But yeah, I mean,
I think it does. It does. Maturity does play a massive factor in things, and just how you approach situations and such.
Yeah, but I was gonna say my final words on it is, it's been rough, and hopefully at some point, something turns out well from this, or I can get out of this situation. But I don't know. I'm just trying to get by.
Exactly. That's why when I always say, oh yeah, I'm just going with the motions, it's just genuinely just like, I'm just trying to make it to the next day at this point. Just trying to just trying to take the next step, make it to the next day, see what happens, make it to the next day. Just, you know, one day, you know, I'm only really looking. Generally, I used to be a person that would plan very far ahead, but right now I'm like, I'm not even planning ahead. I'm just, you know, pushing to the next day and seeing where life kind of goes. But that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it for the fun stuff. Now I got some, you know, I probably should
time
go
to help
to
the goobers.
Yeah, time to help the goobers. Even though I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this is a great opportunity to ask for some advice, and you guys didn't use it. So hold that, us, I suppose.
Yes.
But before we get into our advice column, everyone's favorite section of the advice column, I should get into the shout outs. So, as per usual, if you have enjoyed today's episode, make sure you go down there, hit the like, subscribe, comment, do all that kind of fun stuff. And if you're feeling a bit frisky and you want to support us even further, you can do so by becoming a GGP member. You know, it supports us financially. It's a fantastic thing. We really do appreciate everyone that's done so. Without further ado, I want to give a shout out to our GGP producers of TheLordShiro and Wisniewski, our perfect member of Bryan, Kisa, McDermott, our great members of Cswins, MyDrunkenMoneky, and Kataki Bonji, and our good members of Ryoiin, Stump D, Gacha, Red Halo, Dr. Erection, and Wankafella. Thank you guys for the continued support. And from everyone, from the love couch to the shout outs to everyone's new favorite section, it is the advice column. It's, you know, it's not even the Q&A this time, but it is also the Q&A as well. So in general, for these episodes, if you have anything you want to ask us, you can send them through to us at GGP Podcast on Twitter or via our YouTube community tab. The first question or bit of advice comes from Leilu, the OG goat of Treasure Cruise. He asks, give me advice how to break into the HQ, I'm assuming of Bandai, and turn off the servers to free y'all. So the only advice I can give you in that regard is you can actually find the address of a company on the Play Store, which is insane.
Is that true?
It is true. If you go look up Treasure Cruise right now, I believe. I don't know if it's with all companies, but it is with a few of the bigger companies. I'm fairly certain, like a 99% certain. If I look up One Piece Shit Cruise on the Play Store, and I click on the thing, and I scroll to the very, very... Where is it here? It used to be here. Don't lie to me. Developer... Yeah, there you go. Developer contact. It has their website. It has their email. So www_onepiece_tc_ad@net.bandai.co.jp.
Oh my God.
And then it also has their address of where you can find them in Japan. And I've just clicked on it, and that's the Bandai offices. Yep, I'm looking at it right now. It has a Pac-Man out the front. Nice Christmas decorations. Yep. So if you really want to go turn off the servers, you can go to the Play Store and find out where this company's located, and we'll go raid Bandai. That's your advice, I suppose.
Sounds good to me.
I'm in. Wait, Japan trip? Pull up to the Bandai headquarters? I'm down. That'd be a good video, actually. Going to Bandai. Yeah. Next question comes in from Alex Wisniewski. He asks, in your opinion, when do you think it's quote-unquote too old to be involved with video games, trading cards, manga, and anime?
So... I read this question. I think I have a very good opinion.
Go for it.
This
is on you.
So I don't really think there's ever a too old phase for it, but I just feel like at some point of time you just kind of start to grow like detached from it. Yeah. Like for me, like I still love video games. I still love manga, anime, and trading cards. But this is probably one of the craziest pieces of advice my friend Damien ever gave me. When I was working part-time, when I was in college, when I was doing my YouTube videos. My friend, he works on Wall Street. He has a full-time job. And he always told me, he's like, when you get a full-time job, you'll realize not that you won't have the time to do what you want to do, you just won't want to do it anymore. And I always told him, I'm like, nah, you know, I do all, I told him I go to work, I go to school, I do my YouTube videos, I still play my gacha games, I still watch my 20 episodes of anime, I do this and that. as soon as I got my full-time job,
Yep. Yep.
I just come home and I just do not want to do anything.
Correct.
And I'm home from like 4:30 to midnight. I have a lot of time to do these things. I
You just
just
don't
do
want to.
not want to do them.
Yeah.
And I feel like you just slowly start to get detached from it. Like for video games, I still buy them. I have like 8 games I'm trying to play, but I just get on them and I just don't want to play it. I would
Yep.
literally rather get off and watch old YouTube videos that I've seen like a million times and just sit there
Oh, me too.
and
All the
just
time.
go on TikTok and just bullshit on my phone and just text or just play like different types of games that like I don't need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Like that, like I feel like I just kind of get sucked out of that. And then with anime and manga, like I still love anime, I still love manga. I could if I really wanted to, I could throw it on right now and watch or read
Yeah.
something.
Exactly.
But I have not watched or read any other than One Piece. I have not watched or read anything since episode 6 of Chainsaw Man, which God knows how long ago that came out.
Yeah.
Like I
Exactly.
just same thing as the video games is just like I just don't want to do it.
Yep. No,
And
I agree.
I feel like that's just kind of how it goes with like a lot of people. You just kind of grow out of it. There's not really an age limit for it, or you just kind of don't have time for it, or you just don't want to make the time for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my take on that.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. I think like I guess it's like different people are gonna have different perspectives on it. I know like for one of my friends, him starting full time work actually meant he had more time to dedicate to hobbies because he had like a more rigid schedule and he knew what he had to do. Like he can go play sport now at certain times and go do stuff. I think for me, I think like the biggest thing is that you don't ever grow too old. But I agree with Flame 100%. You don't ever grow too old, but you kind of eventually just fall out. Like you just stop playing games, or you stop watching anime, or you stop reading manga, or you stop playing card
Stop
games, or
making the time for it.
exactly, and it becomes. I think the only time you'll ever quote unquote fall out of it is when it starts to become a chore more than an enjoyment. So
Yep.
I think plenty of people will continue to watch anime. I probably will continue to like dabble in anime and manga and like all this kind of stuff for many, 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 many years to come. But the amount of time that I invest in it will be significantly less than what I am now. I think that's
Yep.
just naturally what it is. I think there's plenty of people that even discover anime at the age of like 35 and then get engrossed in it. So I think it isn't about being too old, but it's definitely about how much time can you invest in something, and is that time worthwhile? Are you getting a lot out of that time? And I think when you start to subconsciously decide that it's not valuable or it's not worth it is when you'll start to fall out. Because I'm the same as you. Like I have so many shows that are on the plan to watch that I should watch that I know are incredible, but then I sit there and I'm like, if I watch anime, I have to be sat, I have to focus, I have to like really engage with the product. But in reality, I don't want to do that. So then I just don't. So I end up just like you. I watch the same like 50 YouTube videos. I like just vibe out. I kind of just exist and like just do whatever I want. And I appreciate that more than having to sit there. But I got to watch 45 episodes of anime and I got to catch up to this and I got to do that. And I got to play the newest game and whatever it is. So yeah, I agree. You just kind of fall out of having time.
Bro, like back in the day, like when I first started watching anime, I was working my first job and I was in college. I used to come as soon as I got home, I was watching that episode for whatever I was watching till I ate dinner. When I was done eating dinner, I would freaking watch from then till I went to sleep. When I woke up in the morning, I would watch before I left till when I left. It was just it was a routine.
Yeah.
Like I was ready for it, and I don't know. It's crazy. It's
Mm-hmm.
crazy just how like I want to do it. It's like I want to do it, but I just don't want to do it.
It is. It's tough, and I think that's when you start to fall out of it. Is when it subconsciously becomes a chore and not like an enjoyment factor. Is when you just stop
Yep.
enjoying it, I suppose. All right.
Yep.
Next question from Vinsmoke. Ew. Yo, how do I
Ew.
get? Oh, here we go. Yo, how do I get women? I need some Rizmere JP and Girlvius advice. All right, Flame, you're up, bud.
um, so I feel like there isn't just like a per se like, oh yeah, you do this and you get girls. Like all those people like make those books and all that, like that
Cringe.
shit. That's all bullshit.
Yes.
If the thing to note is if a girl likes you, they will make the time for you. There
Yep.
is
Let
no,
them
oh,
know.
I'm too busy.
Yep.
There is no,
Yep.
oh, I can't text you back. These
Yep.
girls they're on their phone all day. If
Yep.
they want to text you, if they want to talk to you, they'll talk to you.
Let them know.
They'll reach out, they'll text you first. You won't have to worry about that.
Yep.
It's just kind of playing your part, like we were talking about earlier, work on yourself. Not everybody's funny, but if you're funny, that's a big plus. And I take very, very good pride in the fact that I am very funny.
Yes.
um, but yeah, just try to, there's you can't control how you look. Obviously, you can get like surgery and stuff like that, but that's super
Fuck
extreme.
that. Yeah, that's
um,
extreme.
just try make just dress nice, put on a nice cologne or whatever you have. Wear some nice clothes. Be yourself. Some people are socially awkward, some people are not good at starting conversations. That's okay. That's a
Mm-hmm.
conversation for a different day.
Mm-hmm.
um but something else to keep in mind is if you want something, you just gotta just do it. Don't be nervous to say something, because if you don't say something, nothing will ever happen.
Yeah.
If you have something clever to say that's like, I'm not gonna say like inappropriate, but like you're just scared to say it, like it's like something I guess risky, you're like, oh, I don't want to say this because I don't know how they're gonna react.
Right.
Just say it, just fucking say it.
Just send it.
Like,
You're gonna die. Everyone's gonna die someday. Like,
and
don't regret
honestly,
anything.
like I was saying earlier, like with my stories, growing up, I never really had too much experience. So whenever I
Yeah.
got into new situations, I was always super nervous. I'm still nervous to this day,
Of
like when I
course.
approach situations I haven't met. But with this like upcoming of recent, like all these like influx of situations I've just been in, it just kind of gave me just so much confidence that now I just say shit, like I just say crazy shit. Like I literally said some shit where someone asked me like what I was gonna eat for dinner, and like I just pointed at the girl and looked at her. like I don't give a fuck.
You
Like
don't give a fuck.
just say the
Exactly. Just
shit.
do whatever you want. Yeah. Exactly. That's
Just be
confidence, though.
yourself. Be confident if you can. Try your best to. Obviously, telling you to be confident doesn't mean that you're gonna be confident. But the important thing is to at least try. Because if you don't try, at the end of the day, you'll never get
Exactly.
anything that you're trying to.
I
But yeah,
think.
that's my
Yeah.
opinion on that.
I think the most important thing that I've now discovered is that you need to actually love yourself first, which again is the super duper cliche thing, but that exudes off you. Because I think the biggest thing for me was that I don't give a shit about myself. I don't care about my appearance. I don't care about what I look like. I haven't cared about my weight and all those things. Whilst I don't care about it, other people do. Family, friends, relationship, all that kind of stuff's important. So I think the most important thing is that if you're able to learn how to, again, cliche and cringy as hell, but if you're actually able to learn how to love yourself first, that energy actually reflects off you and other people realize heavily this person cares about their appearance. This person, looks after themselves. This person has a really good like self-esteem. They've got a good image of themselves. They care about themselves. And therefore, if you're able to like, I think the biggest thing that Ryoiin's ever told me, which is great because, he's much younger than I am, but has fantastically mature insights. Like, what you should do first is dedicate the energy you would want to dedicate on someone else to yourself.
Yep.
The same energy, the same amount of love, the same amount of care. And once you've discovered that and once you're comfortable in that, then you can start providing that forward to other people. So I think everything that Flame said is 100% true. But the first thing you have to do is make sure that you actually give a shit about who you are as a human being. Because that's the hardest part. Because if you don't, people realize, people pick up on it. Girls are very, very intelligent in the social kind of sense. Yep. They're so aware. So I think that's the most important part. Love yourself first. Learn how to look after yourself. Care about who you are, what you do, and all that kind of stuff. And then build the confidence. And then try your best. And at the end of the day, like, I think things will work out if they're meant to. And if they're not, they won't. And I think that's just, like Flame said to me earlier, that's just part of the learning curve. It's part of the perspective of life in itself. Not everything's gonna be a home run. You're gonna have to hit some fucking dead balls, some fouls, and then eventually you'll swing one and you'll go to the fences, right? Like that's just how it is.
Yep, and I think there's even a saying for what you said is like, how could someone love you if you don't love yourself?
Correct, and I agree to that wholeheartedly now, and that's my biggest motive for this year is like health. Health is the most important thing to me this year. I'm working on every single factor of that of myself, and then I know that afterwards I can be confident in who I am, and that's the most important part. So love yourself first, and then you can love other people as well. Easy.
Yep.
Next question from Donkey69. Great name. They ask, I personally have trouble talking to new people. I want to get better so I can be a better teammate at school and be a better teammate at school and coworker. How can I improve? You go.
For me personally, when I meet new people, I feel like I have this great ability to insert myself into conversations without overexerting myself.
Yeah, right.
Like I'm not someone where I need to talk about what I like and I need to push it on people. Like right. I don't do that. I think something good to learn is how to just like adapt into conversations. Like
Correct.
I could talk to people about anything, even things that I'm not really like well aware of.
Yeah.
Like I can just kind of understand it, give my, part in the conversation and just go with it. I feel like a lot of people that are like shy, a lot of people that are like nervous because, well, one, they just haven't been like in too many situations with like meeting new people. They don't want people to feel like they're weird. They don't want to like, and then so also people like that, they don't like to, they might think that like their hobbies are weird and like they don't want to, then they just don't have anything to talk about. So then they're just kind of awkward and they're just kind of there. So I just feel like you just gotta, like the thing with the girls, like you just kind of just gotta do it.
No, totally.
If people think you're weird, they're gonna think you're weird at the end of the day. That it can feel a little demoralizing, but it is what it is. You can't let it get to you. That's just who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like at some point, if you just embrace it,
mm-hmm.
not saying like be like, yeah, I'm a weirdo, but you're just that's just who you are. You're a regular person at the end of the day, whether you have trouble talking to people or not. You're still you're still a great person. And yeah, that's all I have to say on that.
No, I think the two things you've described are like actually, in my opinion, probably the best places to just start conversation. School and work. Like they're the easiest places to start things because you have a common like ground for both. You can talk about school. If this is like college, university, it's a place we can discuss with your classmates. Hey, I didn't actually understand this topic. Can you like help me with it? And that's how you can start a conversation with that. Or hey, I noticed we're in the same class. You want to study sometime? That can be another conversation. If there's like the school like grade like 11 and 12, same thing. You have a common ground to discuss things on. And same thing as work. I think if you can initiate a conversation with being on the same grounds as someone, that can really easily start more conversation flowing, and then you can learn more about them and what they do. And I agree with Flame. If you're able to interject yourself in a conversation but not make it about yourself, that's the best case scenario. Because I think too many people come into a conversation and they're all like, me, 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 me. But at the same time, you need to be able to listen to someone say me, 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 and then just be able to just be there as somebody to listen and somebody to conversate with. You don't need to then counter and interject yourself and be like, well, actually, blah, blah, blah. I think it's important to learn how to manage conversation and also just build confidence in speaking. I think the best part about starting this podcast was like, I was a pretty confident speaker to begin with, but the best part about this podcast is that it's just, I'm able to now riff and talk for hours and hours and hours and hours on end because I'm sat here talking to the same four goobers every single week, every single fortnight, and I'm very confident in my ability to communicate now. But I think that if the places you want to be improving on is like a teammate at school and work, I think the best place to start is if you're at school, approach things on the common ground sense and be like, I think the easiest thing to do is asking for help and then trying to go from there, or just like saying, oh, we're in the same team. Like maybe at work, you're in the same team. You're working on the same. Let's say you work at a supermarket. You're both on the tills, and you're working working the cash register. You can bring up conversation from that. Or like I think it's very easy to start a conversation when you're both on the same grounds. And I guess that's how I started my thing with this girl, was that we both were in the same class. So I was like, hey, do you want to like, we had like a group assignment. I was like, hey, you want to be in the same group? Yep, cool. That's the same grounds now. And then that evolves from there. So I think the easiest way to start, I guess for my advice would be try to find a common ground, especially in like environments like school and work. Because that could be the easiest way to start those conversations. Being on a common ground, being able to communicate the same thing, this is the easiest way to start, I would say.
Yeah, a comment on what you said, because I didn't think of this until you brought it up like this. I think a very easy way to start a conversation with somebody that you don't know is by something funny or like a joke, because that kind of already brings that like kind of happy or exciting or funny vibe to the conversation.
Yeah, it breaks the wall.
Really anything happening. Yeah, it breaks that wall. So it's just kind of like you be like, oh, like look at this guy, or some shit like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then like that just kind of gets the conversation going from there. Then you be like, hey, I'm so and so or whatever. And then once you guys meet again, you're like, hey, what's up? And then it just kind of goes from there. But I think some type like being funny or like telling it, not like don't be corny, but like tell a joke, but like something of that nature. And then as you were saying before with the podcast, I feel like I'm good at just speaking. No, I'm not gonna say like public speaking. I feel like I'm good at speaking. Like once I get to know someone, like I can articulate things very well. But once I started to do YouTube, I felt like that helped me break that barrier between me speaking to people that I'm on close bases with to just speaking to like random people. Because I got to a point where my videos, I was getting like tens of thousands of views. So I'm just like, okay, at this point, I don't really care anymore because I have videos that 50,000 people watched. So I'm like, all right, I don't care. Like I don't care anymore.
Exactly.
And that kind of helped me when I just started talking to like random people, or just when I talk to clients at my job or like random things. Like I don't get nervous about that stuff anymore. No. I don't get nervous when I have to pick up the phone and call people, like because I'm like I've talked to thousands of people. And then also from playing One Piece Treasure Cruise, I've met a lot of people on Discord. One Piece Treasure Cruise is actually the reason I made a Discord. Prior to that, I never had one. And in Night server, we get into like very deep conversations with people in there, and we talk for like hours. Like I'm talking from like 5 to like 12 hours, like just sitting in Discord, just fucking talking. Like that's and like a lot of the times we're not even doing anything with each other. We're not playing any games. We're not like watching anything. We're literally just sitting there, like how we're doing right now, just fucking talking. And that's very hard to do. And I feel like that helped me a lot.
That's the best place to start. Like just it's annoying, but like I think for conversations alone, you kind of just have to start. And like I think like you said, at work, just message someone or go up to someone and just talk about work. Oh, today's been how's your day going? Today's been oh, it's been good. How was yours? Oh, it's pretty hectic. I had to do this and do that. Oh, have you ever done this part of work? Oh, blah 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 blah. Like, okay, bang. Initial conversation,
or the man just being a bitch today, or the man just
has blah blah said anything like, and then at school, like, hey, like, oh, have you done the assignment yet? Or like, oh, actually, I haven't done the homework. Or I forgot to do this and blah blah. Like, I think like it's those actually the easiest environments to learn. And then I agree, find a community. If you're someone that plays Treasure Cruise, that's fantastic. There's a plethora of Discords and communities you can just jump into. I think the Stump Cord might be the best place to go right now. I would say. You fuck that guy. And just like go in there. Everyone's a lot of people. I shouldn't say everyone. Sorry. A lot of people are very friendly, very accommodating, very welcoming. A great place to start. Just conversating, learning how to message, learning how to respond, and especially like if someone says something like rude or obnoxious, learning how to deal with it and move on. Like I think that's about it. I think you're in a great place, and I think you're in a great environment where you can, start these kind of conversations and, build the rapport from there, I suppose.
Yep.
All right. Next question from Wankerfella. Okay, here we go. Hey boys.
Hey yo.
Hey, pause. Hey boys, I'm looking for some advice on how to choose melons. I've always done the whole tap and smack thing to see how they sound. Then I'd have one in one hand and one in the other to feel the weight distribution and see which one weighs more. I have found that sometimes just because the melon is bigger, it ain't as juicy as the smaller one. How do you guys choose a ripe melon at the grocery store? All right, I'll give you actually some legitimate farmer's advice from my dad.
Alrighty.
When you hold a melon up to your ear, if you flick the melon and it sounds hollow, it means it's ripe. And you don't just flick it in one spot, you flick around the melon. So what I do when I go to the store with mum or with dad, you pick the melon up, you put it on your shoulder, you hold it to your ear, you go pump, 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 pump. You flick around the entire melon. If it's hollow, it means it's ripe. That's just the fast and hard truth. Smacking it does nothing because you can't hear anything. You can smack as many melons as you want, you know. You can't hear nothing. But you have to have the melon to your ear, and then you can tap it and flick it and smack and do whatever the hell you want with it. And then if it sounds hollow, it is ripe. Easy. Simple question.
Yeah, I don't really go melon shopping, so I don't have a answer for that. But I will say, over my years of growing up, I've actually grew an allergy of watermelon.
How wonderful for you.
Yeah, I'm allergic to watermelon and bananas now.
Oh dear, that sucks.
Yeah.
Watermelon sucks, man. Watermelon, oh, that would
So
suck.
the thing about it is I can eat them. I don't have like an allergic reaction where like I
Yeah.
have to go to the hospital or anything. The only thing that happens to me is my throat and my tongue kind of get like scratchy, like they itch.
Yeah.
And my lip gets like it kind of feels like it's burning a little and just like it gets a little puffy, just like a very, very small amount.
That's annoying. That's so annoying.
Yeah, but it goes away in like 20 minutes. But I could eat them. It's just kind of annoying.
Yeah. There you go.
But
All right, there's your watermelon advice. And necessarily the smaller ones aren't actually that good because they don't have any structure to the actual melon side of things. They're just kind of like they can be juicier, but like there's no structure to the actual melons. When you cut it, it kind of just there's no like nice feel, there's no crunch, there's no like deliciousness to it. So I usually try to go with like sometimes a week we'll find like a 15 kilo like watermelon. So what's that, like 7 pounds or something like that? And then we find that they're the better ones because like when you like cut into it, it should kind of like crack and like it should easily split apart if it's ripe. If it's hard to cut, it's not ripe. Fucking watermelon connoisseur over here, mate. Call me the melon master.
Yeah, it's a little sus, but
that's what I'm saying, bro. I worked at a supermarket for 3 years. Think I can't pick a good watermelon? Come on, dog. Next question for Pixel.
For 2.5, I can't.
Next question from Pixel. Oh, what the fuck? Suppose that an infinite string has an initial displacement. Open curly bracket. X comma -1 is smaller than or equal to X, which is less than or equal to 0, curly bracket. Next line, curly bracket 1 minus X, comma 0 is less than or equal to X, which is less than or equal to half. Close curly bracket is equal to the function equal to U outside of X0. It's the other function. Open on the next line, open parentheses 0, comma X is less than -1 and X is greater than half, and 0 initial velocity, which is UT, open parentheses X, so that's equal to 0. Yeah, no stress. Write down the solution of the equation UTT is equal to UXX. So what I would do here is I would stop doing mathematics. No, I'm joking. I'll just go put that shit in Wolfram Alpha, man. It'll figure it out. I don't know. I gotta do
math. Even though I work at a bank, math is not my forte. So I'm sorry, my friend. You can use Socratic, maybe.
Yeah, that's smart math. The only math I can do is fucking. I'll do mental arithmetic. I'm clear. This shit, no shot, bud. No shot.
Yep. Sorry, bud.
So all the best with your assignment. I don't know. Okay, I can't help you there, boss. Final question, as per usual. Why not end it off with another Cody? Cswins 8214 question. Hey fellas, as always, your work is greatly appreciated. Boy oh boy, I'm excited to see what you'll have for advice to give. Since we're departing from the usual, I've got a question for y'all. What's the best advice you've ever gotten? For me, it was to find the positive wherever you can. The difference day to day, week to week is uncanny. It's difficult at first, but before too long, oftentimes you'll find yourself looking on the bright side without even thinking about it. I like that. What is the best advice you've ever gotten, Flame?
On the funny side of advice, my friend told me if I ever need to get something done, use a butter knife. But that's
Hey
just on the funny
yo,
side of things.
hey
No,
yo.
no, like actual like practical
Yeah, no, that
situation.
is true though. I will give you that. That is actually like really really true.
Yeah. I don't know really the best advice that I've ever gotten personally because I'm I'm usually the person giving out advice
Oh, me
on
too.
situations that I've never been in. but,
Me too.
but yeah, honestly, I don't have a good answer for that, so I don't want to make something up.
Um, I think for me, like the biggest personal bit of advice, or not the biggest. I have mentors. I have like my parent. I have a lot of people. My biggest thing that my mum's ever said, which actually aligns pretty nicely to Ace from One Piece. You want to live life without regret. Don't
Yeah,
don't go to your grave with regret. Don't regret anything. So even if you make a so for example, like the biggest thing for me is like even if I make a mistake and I fuck up or I should have done something different, I try to twist that into a learning experience as opposed to sitting there and be like I regret not asking her out or I regret not being in that relationship or I regret not taking that job opportunity. So instead of regretting it, you learn. Okay, next time this pops up, do it. Next time this occurs, approach it. Blah 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 blah. X Y Z. That to me is super important. Um, Other than that, I think something else that I was taught in the work sense is that I look a lot older than my age, and people are naturally intimidated by me. So I was always told be prepared for people to put you down because people will be intimidated by how young you are and how old you look and how proficient and intelligent you are. That came from my first ever boss in a full-time position. And that
oh
comes
wow.
from an entirely different conversation, a different story. But essentially, I gave a presentation. Everyone thought I was like this very high up executive in this company, but I literally just started. And everyone thought I was like 45 years old. In actuality, I was 22. I had just started, and everyone already had this image of me as like knowing more than I actually did. And then they all put me down because they didn't like that I was coming with facts and logic and information because they hadn't thought of that kind of stuff itself. So I guess in turn, what that kind of taught me and what she taught me as well, she's still my mentor today. She was like, sometimes you need to lead the horse to water, and instead of it, I think this saying is like, leading a horse to water and it won't drink or whatever it is, or lead a horse to water and it'll drink or whatever it is. But it's more like you want to lead a horse to water and let it figure out by itself how to drink. Or all you want to do sometimes is plant the seed and let somebody else water it and then let them think that they figured it out. But in reality, you know it was you. Makes life a lot easier in that sense. In terms of the work side of things that I've found personally. But I'd say like
I like that.
those are probably my two biggest things. And another thing that my mum told me, and I have it written down, wherever you go, whatever you do, walk in with the attitude of saying, I'm better than everyone else here. That way, there is no comparison needed. You already know you are better than everyone. So who cares about money, relationships, etc.? Wherever you go, remember to say, I am better than everyone else here. That's a bit self-fulfilling, but the concept is pure. Because you go, a lot of the times in life, you go in there and you compare yourself. I'm probably the biggest culprit of all time in terms of comparison. I compare myself to everything and anyone, and no matter what it is. So I always feel negatively about myself as a human being. I feel less than anyone else. So that was when she told me you just have to go into everything you do and then even if it's not true, tell yourself that you're better than everyone else here. So there's no need to make comparison. There's no need to think that people are better than you because you know going in with a mentality that you're better than everyone else here, and that's just the best thing you possibly can do.
Yep. And I guess on the advice part, I guess I'll give a piece of advice.
Yeah.
Be yourself. Don't live a lie because at some point that lie will catch up to you.
Correct. Could not agree more. Agree more. All right, next part of the question. I'll also share one of my favorite pieces of advice. It came from an early 2000s TV show, Even Stevens. Great show. What's living if you never pull down your pants and slide on the ice? Lessons lived by. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
As always, fellas, thanks for the work that you do. The 1 to 2 hours of podcasts are often a break from life for a lot of folks. Much love as always, your boy Code in Canada. Well, I hope you're prepared for an almost 3-hour episode this time, because That's what we've done today. But I think that about wraps us up. Flame, any last tidbits? Anything else you want to put out there before we end today's episode?
Oh man, no, I'll keep it nice. No, I don't have to say anything.
No, I think for me, the final thing I would say is like, life sucks sometimes, but sometimes it's beautiful. Like, just go into every day with the best intentions. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't. Take every negative situation as an opportunity to learn. Be as positive as you possibly can be, no matter how hard it is. If you want to be, sometimes if you want to be upset, but don't let it overtake you. And just try your best to just look at every day with the perspective that everything's going to be okay. And if it isn't, I'm going to figure this shit out. That's just the mentality of it.
Yeah, one last little piece of advice that I can give everyone else, because I had to give it to one of these dummies that I talked to. When you go into a situation or whatever it is that you're going into, don't go into it already starting it negative. Like, oh man, like this person's not gonna like me, or oh man, like I might not get this job interview, or once you start the day off in that negative aspect, you're kind of already wishing for things to happen that don't need to happen. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. At some points, you have no control over that.
Yeah.
So just be yourself and live life. If it happens for you, great for you. If not, stand up and try again.
That's it. Done. Wrap it up. Put a bow on it. That is it for today's episode. If you have made it this far, we do greatly appreciate it. I guess I'll say in the comment section, if you made it this far, put down what the best piece of advice you've been told is. I think it'd be a nice little place for people to go and read those comments there. But as per usual, if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you go down there, hit the like, subscribe, comment, do all that kind of fun stuff. And you can also join if you want to support us financially. You go in the description, you can find our Linktree link, that is linktr.ee/GGP. There you can find all of our social media platforms, Twitter at GGP Podcast, and you can find us on anchor.fm/GGP. Also, Anchor was purchased by Spotify, by the way. And their new link, and now it's called Podcasters. It's not Anchor anymore, it's called Podcasters. It's cringe. But you can still use Anchor. Anchor.fm/GGP will still redirect you to the main platform, but the new URL is podcasters.spotify.com/pod/show/good great perfect. So I'm not going to say all that, but you can go into the Linktree link, it'll still redirect you there. You can find us on the main platforms, that being Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, as I said. Also on things like Overcast, Podcast, Radio Public, and all that kind of fun stuff. If you enjoyed us today as co-hosts, you can go down there. Flamevis's Twitter's there. My Twitter's there. Go follow, like, sub, I don't know, do all that kind of fun stuff. Also go support Todd and Knight as well. Go send them your best wishes. Hopefully, in the next episode of GGP, we'll probably have a post-mortem on the worldwide anniversary, and then any new legends or characters that come about from there, and hopefully we have the full crew back together again. With that being said, I've been Captain Papi and Flamevius for the first episode of, what are we going to call this? The Advice Lounge? The Therapy Lounge? What are we going to call our mini-series?
I like the Therapy Lounge.
The Therapy Lounge. All right. For the first episode of the Therapy Lounge, or episode 87 of the Great Perfect Podcast. We will talk to you guys next time. Peace.
Bye.